All right, and we are live. Welcome everybody back to the Sanctum Sanctorum. My name is Widow Son. This is episode number 2, and I want to just say again, thank you so much to everyone who showed up at the inaugural stream with my good friend Hatman. Was gracious enough to grant me some of his time, and he came on and spent about an hour and a half with us. And today, I am also very honored to have another distinguished guest on, which I'm looking very forward to talking to him today. And before we get into that, just want to remind everybody to click that subscribe button. Go ahead and give the stream a like if you are here and enjoying it so far, even though we did just get started. But we are all, and also just another disclaimer, anything that is ever discussed in this live stream is not intended to bring drama to this channel. It is strictly interviews, commentary, discussion on certain topics. So once again, if you come into the stream or into the chat or anything like that being negative or trying to start anything, you will be banned appropriately. I hate to be that way, but this is not the place for that. But right now, I am going to bring on my illustrious guest for today. STOODOGG has graciously come on today, and I really do appreciate that. His YouTube channel has been taking off very well. He is almost about to hit 1,000 subs, and I am very, very proud of him for doing that. And we are going to be talking about what he does and how people can stay safe online. We may even get into some Star Trek, even though I really don't know a whole lot about it, but we will see how that goes. So without further ado, STOODOGG, welcome to the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Hey, what's up? What's up? How's it going?
It's fine, going just fine. Thank you again for coming on today. I really appreciate you taking some time out to come on the stream and everything. I see we already have some people in the chat right now. We have there's Teddy Bear, hello, and I see Miss Whiplash is here. Excuse me, don't want to get that name wrong. She may come after me if I do, so I don't want to.
Hello, Teddy Bear. Hello, Mr. Whiplash. Well, thank you for inviting me. It's very kind of you.
Oh no, the pleasure is indeed all mine, and I thank you for coming on to this lowly YouTuber's new channel. I really really appreciate that.
Well, I'm always happy to help other people to create things. So anytime.
Exactly. So first of all, I want to say thank you. Well, thank you again for coming on, obviously. But I want to say congratulations to you because you are very, very close to hitting the YouTube milestone of 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, so I reckon I'm around about somewhere between 940 and 950 at the moment. So the analytics say it's going to happen at some point in the next month.
Well, and I will go ahead and say this: any of my new audience or anyone who has not already subscribed to STOODOGG's channel, I've placed the link to his channel in the description below. Go and give him a subscription. Go and watch his content. It's very, very good, very thought out, and it's it's something that's very important, definitely. And we're gonna go ahead and start getting into that a little bit. But before we do, first. I have to say, a lot of the spammer videos and everything of yours that I have watched, I noticed like you're always standing like what I'm figuring is going to be a fireplace. Have you ever thought about maybe sitting a can of Spam like right there next to you? And like,
so next to me, I've got a shelf that I've got a few things on. Like I've got an old camera there. Just a couple of random things, a photo of me at work from a couple of years back, but that's maybe an idea. There was a video where I had a toy robot, and that robot has now been sitting on that shelf for about 2 years. So I might just randomly produce a can of Spam one day and just put it on the shelf.
You should totally do that, and just maybe put like a little sign above it that says you should avoid spam, and like that, just if anybody watches your content, they should get the joke with that. So what got you interested in doing YouTube and putting out the information that you focus on?
Well, I initially started off as gaming. Oh, my friend Cadenza is in the chat. Hello. He's asking if the camera works. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to. And I honestly have no idea what kind of camera roll or film it takes. So I don't know how to find out. This camera, I think, dates back to about 1935. It was an old antique store find.
Oh, you got to love those antique store finds, man. Where I live in the U.S., antique stores or malls or whatever you want to call them, indoor flea markets or what have you, you never know what you're going to come across.
There's a tiny little village up in the north of Scotland called Ellen, and I was walking past the window of this shop and I just saw the camera and I was like, I want that. And it wasn't expensive for what it is, £20. So I just went in and bought it. It's like, I want that camera.
Like, you want that camera? Are you selling it, please? You just walk in, walk up to the person at the counter, and you just have like a pout on your face, like you're about to cry, and you just be like, "Are you selling that How much is that camera in the window?"
I want that one. But so back to what we were saying, you were asking me about my channel. So I'd initially started off as an old school kind of gaming channel.
Mm-hmm.
There is a really old game for the Atari ST, so that gives you an idea of how old it is. But it had no presence on YouTube whatsoever. The name of the game was Mercenary. So in seeing that it was very underrepresented, I made it my channel's mission to change that. And that was a mission that took about a week. So I've got the playlists are old. I don't think they match up very well with the quality of the stuff that I have now. But the fact is that I've documented this game. So I do want to go back and revisit those videos and redo them with my new sort of editing styles and things that I've learned over the last, I guess it's been about 4 or 5 years now, and just bring the quality of the videos up to par with the stuff that I've done now.
Well, and I can certainly appreciate that. I mean, being relatively new to all of this, and it's like I was saying before we went live, I worked in the radio business for a number of years, and I have to remember that this is similar to that in a way, and I'll eventually kind of get to the point where I possibly would show my face, and I'm gonna, and it's like I've said before, I'm not going to be doing I'm going to be doing a little bit of everything as far as the talking about stuff and the channel and what I present. Now I have to know where is STOODOGG your nickname, or is that something you came up with?
So that came about 10 years ago. I was just a lowly kitchen porter washing plates in a little kitchen up in Aberdeen in the corner of a vodka bar, and what we used to do was we used to burn CDs and bring them in daily and just listen to them. And I had a stack that I'd burnt in the house, but I didn't have a marker pen. So no one knew what they were. It was like
luck of the draw, basically.
Yeah, CD lottery, And I left them on the shelf, and I had my 2 days off in a row. So when I came back, everyone was walking about and doing like a hand flick, like they were the Beastie Boys. And it turned out that for the last 2 days, they'd all been listening to just like rap, Cypress Hill, Beastie Boys, NWA, Snoop Dogg, because all the CDs that I left had all been stuff along that sort of lines. And it just happened that everyone that they listened to was just like gangster rap and stuff. And then the head chef walked up to me and he's like, "Ah, STOODOGG is back from his 2 days off. How is it going? Have you been getting the bad people in the hood, STOODOGG?" And ever
Drink-
since then, it just stuck. The head chef moved on to other things, but the other chefs there just kept calling me it, and then new chefs came and went. But I just still always had STOODOGG as a nickname, so it just stuck for the whole time that I was working there.
Well,
I think that's a good thing because we also worked with a guy whose nickname was Sugar Tits. So it could have been a heck of a lot worse.
definitely, and I really I feel bad. I feel bad for that guy. I mean, he got stuck with that nickname, which I can't say too much. I have a good. I've worked. I was a server for a number of years, and me and a few of the guys that I worked with, we were all fans of the Mighty Boosh.
I love the Mighty Bush.
Oh, yeah. And we were talking one day, and somebody mentioned the one that everyone knows, which is the Old Greg episode.
Greg.
And I actually one of my friends, a guy named Ryan, I looked. He was having some issues at home or something like that, and he was just having a really bad day. And I walked up to him and I threw my arm around him and I just looked at him and I said, "Easy now, fuzzy little man, Peach." And just from then on, anytime I would see him or one of us would see him and he was just having a rough day, we would always say that to him. So he became fuzzy little man, Peach. And I was kind of curious about the name when you and I first started kind of communicating back and forth a little bit. So I
see you, Quentin Phipps. Hello.
Yeah, Quentin is here. And so when you and I kind of started communicating and I saw the name, I was just like, that could possibly be a Snoop Dogg reference, maybe, but I wasn't sure. And if it's not, then I'm going to make it one. So that's why I inadvertently started calling you Stu D-O-double-G in Hatman stream. So when you started, when you did your format change, what drew you to? Did it go stay strictly to gaming, or were you moving towards like the content that you're working on now, or did you just?
So basically, what happened was. So I guess that would have been my first sort of 1.5 to 2 years on YouTube. That was mostly sort of gaming stuff. And like a lot of it didn't really stand the test of time. Even at the time I was recording and uploading the stuff, I'm just like, this is pretty lame. This is pretty rubbish. And a lot of it got just deleted. I did a mass purge of the channel, and I only kept the things that I wanted to be there, like the mercenary gameplay, all that's still there. But it was about the middle of 2017, and I was in a community. I'm still actually in the community on Facebook, and everyone was complaining about this spammer that had appeared, this Dominic W. And then I just thought, I'll make a video about it. I'll take some of the screenshots that I've got and just sort of warn people about this guy, because what he was doing was he was going about people's comment sections and he was saying, "I'm poor, I'm lonely, I can't afford a camera, but I want to be a YouTuber. Please go and start giving me money on Patreon." And it's like, this sounds really, really dodgy. So I put out like warning videos about it, and they got a heck of a lot of views compared to the gaming stuff. As in, what was like tens of views, maybe 20 views maximum, turned into hundreds of views. So I started branching out into other things, sort of connected to the the spammer warning videos, along the lines of keeping yourself safe online. Branched onto different platforms like uh, Facebook and sort of weird fake news that pops up from time to time, and it just, every couple of days I'd end up with a short list of things that I thought were quite interesting that I could turn into a video. And I wanted them to be quite short. I wanted them to get the information across in as little amount of time as possible, and to have little jokes and things in them as well. So they were short, entertaining, and educational all at the same time. And I mean, I can't really talk much for my comedy. Comedy's in the eye of the beholder, but I hope I've managed to at least achieve one of those goals with my content.
On a lot of the videos of yours that I have watched, I always walk away with a little chuckle. Indeed. Now the
Hatman has arrived.
Indeed, he has. Welcome, Sir Hatman. You are always welcome here in the Sanctum.
Hello, good sir.
And I have to say, since I know he's listening, I loved the hat signal from his stream last night. That was very entertaining, and the Kenny Loggins intro was
a brilliant intro.
That's why I kept saying, and like, does anybody else feel like Goose and Maverick right now? Like, we should be like doing dog fights and planes and stuff like that. I was waiting for a picture of Tom Cruise to just like float by the screen, but he's with how crazy he's gotten over the years, he would have probably tried to sue or something like that.
Like, the copyright strike is strong with this one.
yeah, Hatman would have had another one to deal with, and it would have been from Tom Cruise. So now the spammers and scams, and I don't know if you saw the description that I put in. It was scammers, hackers, and oh Lord, I don't even remember what I put.
Spammers and hackers and scams. Oh my.
Oh yes. So let's go ahead and we'll start talking about stuff like that. Now, when you're dealing with, can you kind of go over what you would say, like one of the last videos you did, I was watching about the phony comments on people's YouTube videos and their channels and things like that. Saying that if they leave a nice comment, maybe they'll subscribe, and then they'll in turn subscribe to this channel that's not even real. Where did you first start seeing things like this?
So that all started, say, back in 2017, seems to be when I first came across it anyway, that this sort of stuff seemed to be robotically mass spread. And I looked into it, and it's actually some kind of quite a basic, like a program or a script, external from YouTube, that has access to the YouTube channel, that these guys they turn it on and they leave it running.
Mm-hmm.
And it can just go across thousands and thousands and thousands of channels, and it's a mass spamming device for whatever purposes. Be that these things can be used legitimately by companies for things, but these guys are using it more maliciously, and it seems that they get a signal back whenever someone interacts with the comment. So if a legitimate company was using it, and you might have seen this in like Facebook Messenger, if you talk to a company and you feel like you're talking to a computer, it's a program like that. It detects your signal back and it'll try and answer questions. Sometimes it'll spectacularly fail. Like you'll ask it about eggs, Easter eggs, and it'll try and send you a roast chicken.
What?
But these things on YouTube, what these guys have been doing is detecting the signal back from it, and then they've been going to the channels and looking for bits of personal information and stuff, and anything that might give away a hint as to what passwords might be, and then trying to break into channels using these tools as their sort of their weapon sort of thing. But in 2017, YouTube had brought in like new new stuff on their platform to try and fight against this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed to have been working, because towards the end of 2017, it all kind of dried up. And I almost felt like I was being pushed out of a job.
Well, now I noticed one of the last video that you did, and I'm steadily just looking over a few things here on the channel. The last one you did, or one of the last ones that I actually had the chance to watch yesterday, was where did it go? I had it right here in front of me. Apparently now my
I
phone
had everything all prepared, and then I accidentally pressed the big X at the top of the screen.
Exactly. The what was the Fortley. I actually happened to notice Fortley comments on one of Hatman's videos yesterday, and
I think you mentioned that in the chat.
I
remember you saying that, yeah.
I had seen one of those the other day when I was looking at them, and I went ahead and I reported those as spam from his channel. Hello, Dr. Yoshi. Welcome. I'm glad you can make it this time, my dude. So I went ahead and reported the spam for those comments, and that the only reason that I was able to actually identify that is because I remembered the name of it. Do you know anything about Fortley or where it came from, or can you give some people warnings about what they're dealing with or what they're trying to do?
So that one seems to be quite a new one. I'd only came across that one within the last week, but it seems to be, they seem to be trying to gather subscribers and viewers with Fortnite content, and they changed their name to Fortnite at one point. I don't know why. We are the spammers who like to go Fortnite. But I think that one is, they're using the spam tools to try and build a following, like a sub for sub kind of following, and in getting people to their channel, they're then watching their videos, and it's ad revenue. It's like a viewer funnel kind of thing. But they, in my looking into them, they seemed to have. So I'd opened a folder for each one, and I think I ended up with 9 folders of Fortnite type cloned channels. That's the thing with these guys. They don't do it small scale. They go over the top.
Grand scale.
Yeah. Like there was another one called Zymertrack Sub to Me that had literally hundreds of channels. I don't get it. If you keep it small scale, you won't get detected. But being so overt like this, everyone notices.
Right. And when like I said, I noticed those on Hatman's, and I'm just like, oh, wait a minute, we better try to get ahead of this as soon as we can. Um, but what exactly is their intention? I mean, is it just to gather personal information, or is it to advertise, or is it to just try to get people to send them their credit card information? Or what exactly is their intended purpose?
So I'm thinking it is down to information and down to uh, trying to get financial information. To open up bank loans in people's names and run away with the money, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There had been one, a Mr. Beast is giving away money kind of one, and it looked like what these guys were doing was that they were taking information and aiming to take out bank loans and then doing this in a person's name and then going to them and saying, congratulations, you've won. Here's some money, taking out a loan for like 20 grand, saying, you've won $1,000. And then a month later, the person gets a letter about having to pay back interest on their loan. The scammer had ran away with 19 grand and left the winner with $1,000 and an unexpected, unwanted bank loan.
In things like that, I mean, you hear about it all the time. I mean, back before the days of internet, and and even when it was still kind of in its infancy at the time, uh, mail order scams and things like that were very, very abundant. And you would, in the old, it's like the old saying goes, if it's too good to be true, then it probably is.
Yeah.
So
it's a brilliant saying. Yeah.
Indeed it is. But also, let's not forget the words of P.T. Barnum, who said there's a sucker born every minute.
Yep. And that is also very true. That's something that I've seen quite a lot with the spam and the scam sort of comments, is that the amount of people who seem to walk about sort of unshielded with the attitude of hey, this person's just left me a really nice comment. Wow, what an awesome, lovely person they must be. It could be anyone.
Right.
It could literally be a gang of criminal hackers from wherever, insert whatever country is relevant. Russian hackers, Chinese scammers, that could just be using robots to leave these comments. Reserve your judgment until you actually get to know a person, until you've spoken to them for a length of time, before just jumping unprepared into any Discord server that they want you to join, or paying them whatever into their Patreon.
That's something definitely that I've had a few friends that have actually run into situations like that, where the one biggest one that I know that a lot of people that I know have seen have been like the bots and everything, like you'll see on Facebook and dating sites and things like that, and they're talking to this magnificently beautiful woman on the other side of the planet, and then it turns out like their social security number's been stolen, or their bank account's been broken into, or something to that effect. And then all the damage that they have to go in and try to fix after that, getting everything reestablished, closing things, trying to get the bank to clear everything.
Stuff like granting remote access to your computer so that these things can use your webcam to see you, but at the same time they're they're also able to remotely access your files. Again, it's another tool that can be used for legitimate purposes. A friend of mine, his name's Hackamon Mike. He used to be a software engineer on the other end of a program called TeamViewer, where he would go into people's files and he would, if they were having an issue with their computer, he would repair the issues. If it was someone who'd accidentally wiped or removed software drivers or something like that, he was able to refit them. He was able to make sort of registry changes in their Windows to make their computer fully operational again. At the same time, this program also granted him full access to virtually everything that was in the person's hard drive. So it's these tools that can be used for good can also be perverted into a weapon that can be used against people by people who are less scrupulous, untrustworthy people.
So basically, what it boils down to is, I mean, not only is it spam that you have to deal with, but it's also going to be a hacker that can be running the same thing. It's not just going to be somebody who's going to try to tap into like your IP address and just, try to get whatever you have on your hard drive, possibly to use against you or anything like that. They all fall under the same umbrella.
Yeah, it's like, some of them are just doing little things like trying to create the view funnel to get ad revenue, to get the 4,000 watch hours on YouTube to get that monetary gain. But there are others who are just trying to steal information and hack and damage people in financial ways with stolen information from them.
Now,
hello, the Wanderer. How are you?
I was just about to say that. You took the words right out of my mouth. Are you sure you don't want to just co-host this with me? Since you seem to be Johnny on the spot with with welcoming everybody.
The Wanderer is a good friend of mine. He's a good guy.
Well, you welcome, Wanderer. You are most welcome here. Now let's take this in kind of a different direction. Now there's something that I've definitely wanted to ask you about. Now I have
Sure.
now my mother is in her 70s, and she knows a little bit about computers and everything like that. But I've told her over the years, when it comes to emails and things online, please be careful what you click on and things to that effect. When it comes to older computer users, parents, grandparents, things like that, are they more vulnerable to things like this, or are they just as vulnerable as anyone else?
Yeah, so it generally seems that the targets of these people are the older computer users and the very young, because the young are more inclined to literally trust any nice, kind email that they see, and the elderly are less likely to know about sort of security and safety functions on computers, like keeping their malware protection sort of up to date or anything like that. They just think that, oh, I installed that 5 years ago, it'll be fine. But that's where you hear a lot of these, like the Nigerian email scams.
Oh yeah.
You'd hear a lot about the elderly thinking they were doing something kind and nice for someone, and then finding their bank accounts virtually drained by these guys because of emails that they'd received. I know that in quite a few cases, they've managed to claw back a lot of the monies, but there are some unfortunate cases where it's just been impossible to drag the money back because it's, it crosses borders and different jurisdictions and stuff like that.
Right. So is it something that let me
Hello, GNM 597. I hope you're doing well, sir.
And welcome, GNM 597. Thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with me and STOODOGG this afternoon. Really appreciate that. Now, is it strict? Now, I don't know really a whole lot about the whole Nigerian. I've heard of it and I've read a little bit about it. Can you kind of break that down a little bit more?
So it's basically saying that there is a person who is either a relative of someone who's died, or they themselves are actually dying from a serious disease. So it's socially engineered to sort of tug at your heartstrings, kind of thing. Like let's just sort of write one along that format right now. It's like,
Okay.
Hello, my name is John Smith. I am suffering from a terminal form of cancer, and throughout my life, I've done all of these things. I was a soldier, I was in the army, I got a really good pension, and we came across a museum when we were fighting somewhere, and I managed to hoard away quite a bit of gold. So you got them with the I'm dying, and you got them with the this guy sounds like he's got money. Due to the rules and laws in my country, when I die, all of my money, because it was from the military, and all of the money from the sales of the gold will be going back to the government. But I just want to give the money to someone because I'm such a kind, old-fashioned kind of guy that I want to give this money away. And I've contacted several people to give them whatever amount, say $100,000. And your email address came up, and I want to give you $100,000 because I'm a kind man, and when you die, you can't take it with you, and that's going to be in like 6 weeks anyway. So my funeral's paid for. I'll be fine, but you just send me all of your contact information, all of your bank account information, your address, and all that, and I'll make sure that this money gets to you. And that seems to be something that people fall for. And then if something doesn't happen, like if they don't get paid the money and they query it, they get another email from another address saying, "Hi, this is from the estate of John Smith. John, unfortunately, peacefully passed away from his terminal illness the other day and is now dead. I don't know anything about the financial arrangements you guys had, but unfortunately we can't send you any money." So you have literally nothing apart from just a couple of minutes of wasted time. And the scammer on the other end of this has literally all of your information to do with whatever they want to.
Well, now, like these ones that you. What about the scams? And I know that they have. I think that a lot of them well, I mean, it's all over the world, obviously, but the ones where you would get an email that says, "Hey, if you'll send me $500, then I'll make sure that you get like 2,000 in return." Is that along the same line, or is that something completely different?
So it's a very similar thing. It's basically just you'd give them the money and then they'd run. You'd never hear anything about it again. And there has been an amusing one. I think the guy's name was I want to say it was Jim Browning. I'm not sure. Now, this is a guy who sort of he does a lot of sort of scam baiting stuff. He's got a YouTube channel where he does it, but he got involved in a chain of emails where he was just wasting the scammers' time, and they wanted whatever $100 from him, but he'd then translated that into their local currency and sent them 500 of their their local sort of currency, which translated into something like 46 cents.
Oh, wow.
And he'd actually managed to annoy the scammer because he was basically wasting their time. I've sent you the 500, so I'm just waiting for my $1 million. Thank you very much.
Like, anytime today, I accept payments by traveler's check, credit card, um, 100-year-old bottles of whiskey, whatever you've got, just go ahead and send it.
Well, it is one of these. They're basically selling false promises. They're trying to get you with the. If you give them something very little, then you will get something massive in return. And going back to what you'd said earlier, if something's too good to be true, most of the time it is.
So what what advice can you give someone, like an older person, so they don't run into situations like this? Like, I usually, well, normally I take care of all my mother's, internal IT, and her cable and internet and computers and all of that. I like to say that I'm my mother's own personal 24-hour a day tech support line. Um, I so at any given time, during the day or whatever, I'll like yesterday, I got a phone call from her. Her cell phone wasn't connecting back to her internet connection, and so because I am also on her Comcast account, I can call and take care of things for her. And dealing with Xfinity's um, automated phone system for tech support is like pulling teeth. And now with everything going on with the pandemic and all of that right now, a lot of people who do things like that, they're all working from home, and manpower's been cut down and all of this. And so what advice can you give to someone who is older, who would be who is either been a victim of something like this, or would be potentially could be roped into a scam like what we've been talking about? Like, what advice can you give them right now to try to keep them safe?
I think the best advice would be to be wary of everything. Always double check. If you do get an email that, even just if it seems legit, type it into a search engine and see what Google says about the email. A lot of legitimate businesses will have a sort of about scams page, and they'll tell you that you'll only receive emails from us from these addresses. So at YouTube, for example, or at google.com. It won't come from at bobsmith.457, for example. But the best thing to do is just always be guarded. Even just protecting yourself a little bit can make these guys try and move on to find easier targets. And I know that sounds like a horrible thing to say, but ultimately everyone has to just try and protect and guard themselves. Like if you were walking down the street and you were feeling like you were in a bit of a too close a proximity to other people, if it was crowded, keep your hands in your pockets and your phone in one hand and your wallet in the other, so that you know at all times exactly where those things are. It's just about self-protection and being quite savvy with that.
Mm-hmm.
And say if these scams and hackers seem to think that you're too tough a nut to crack, they'll go and find an easier one.
Well, I mean, okay. Well, now, and I know everyone is prone to it, but is it just a certain age limits that they're trying to go after, like, elderly people who are going to be more kind-hearted and willing to, give money if they don't know any better, or, kids who are, very impressionable, be like, hey, do you play Fortnite, or do you play this or that online? Here, add me, and it just goes from there. I mean, is it everyone that's at risk, or is it more along the lines of just certain age groups?
So it's multifaceted. I mean, there's a lot of them seem to be customized towards certain people, like you were saying about scammers targeting kids. So that would be your sort of your Roblox scammers. Your a lot of these games now that kids play have like online microtransactions that need a real world bought money in them, and people would make false promises of free in-game cash. Right. So that would appeal to the sort of younger demographic. They would aim sort of a general stuff at guys like me and you, like software, for example, different key codes for accessing different types of editing or recording software. You would purchase the key codes and they wouldn't work, and then the scammer would have your $40 or whatever you just paid to get a new version of Sony Vegas. And then as for like the older demographics, they could be seeing emails for dodgy life insurance and stuff like that. Again, just another, you make the payment and then they take your money and run kind of thing.
And that's one reason. Like, now I have, and nowadays a lot of people, most people will have like little games on their phone, they like to play when they're, at lunch or riding the bus to work.
I've got a few of those myself.
Yeah, as do I. The only thing is, like, I never give them money. I never. I mean, it's like $2 and you can get like 1,000 coins and this little part to add on to your game, or this is $5 and you'll get 1,000,000 gold and this right here. It's just like, okay, well, if I can't just earn it myself and this is just more casual, why am I going to risk? And even though it may be secure, it may be in fact secure if it's going through something like Google and it's a reputable app group that's put this game out and everything like that. It can in fact be legit, but then there's the ones where you're just always kind of like, I don't really want to do this. Are we seeing more of things like that pop up nowadays?
So there is a lot of, in a lot of modern games now, a lot of what's called microtransactions and sort of loot box economies, which, if you're getting these things legitimately from the companies that are making the games, you're generally fine. You're generally as safe as is possible with a corporation. Um, yeah, they will get your information, but they're they're not going to generally just throw it away. You'll get spam, but it just legitimate spam trying to sell you stuff. Uh, but they're not going to go much further than that. But there is a lot of small print. You need to make sure that if you just want to buy 1,000 coins in whatever, if you want to buy $1 million in GTA, I don't know if that's a large amount of money or not. I don't play it, but make sure they're not going to be charging you money on a recurring basis. Make sure you've not just signed up for a subscription model that you can't easily get out of.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to buy money in your game for yourself, or if it's your kid's birthday and he wants to spend the money on an in-game purchase or whatever, just make sure it's not going to sit there and constantly take money off of you month after month.
Right.
But a lot of the corporations, they're generally as trustworthy as a corporation can be. But you just need to look out for the ones that seem to be too good to be true and seem to be coming from third parties outside of these corporations that are trying to sell you things.
Now, do you, going back, to talking about, bigger games like a lot of people play, do you run into that more? Can you excuse me, do you run it into do you run into it more on the bigger platforms or on the smaller platforms, or is it like 50-50? Because I know games like Fortnite, which I mean I don't play it, but I do know several people who do. Um, do you run into it more on MMOs like that, or do you run in? Is it more prevalent on a smaller scale like the apps, like what we were just talking about?
So I'm thinking that this sort of thing would be more prevalent on sort of bigger games like Fortnite and uh, World of Warcraft. So the main thing seems to be the sort of communication network for the scammers to scam. And on Xbox, you've got your Xbox chat settings, so you can literally receive messages from anyone, and someone sent you dodgy messages trying to sell you stuff. If they were able to send that out to thousands of people and only two of them actually bought the thing, well, the scammer's still making money off of it, even though other people just sort of disregard it as, oh, look, a scam email, lol, delete. But a
Right.
lot of people who might be more gullible might believe it. And then, there goes their $5-10 or whatever. And then they don't get their new Fortnite skin that they've apparently just purchased.
Where have you yourself been roped into anything like this, or been made a victim of it at any point?
Um, Not online. I've I've managed to keep myself quite guarded, but just trying to think back, I have been the victim of a scam when I was a lot younger and a lot less sensible. I just virtually gave money away to some guy on the street and then never got it back. And then that made me grow up quite fast and learn, oh, wow.
Um,
And
once
ever
again,
since then, I said to myself, if I could share any stories to help people guard themselves a little bit better, then I'd like to do that. And
I was about to say you didn't fall victim to like a Russian mail order bride.
whoa, we need to deal with something in the chat right now, my dude.
Uh, what's going on?
There's a doxing going on
Where? I don't.
in the live chat.
Hang on, let me. I don't see it anywhere. Here, let me go to my channel on the website. Give me a second. All right, guys. I will say this again. This channel is not for that purpose. And once again, if this starts, you will be banned accordingly. I know that I am the only mod in here right now, but this is not a place for that. So let's see here. Are you referring to this Jeremy Carroll person? Because I'm not seeing anything else.
I'll drop you the information by Discord.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I see who it is.
Cool.
Is it the Jake the dog person that you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay. And actually, okay, I've taken the liberty of going ahead and taking care of that. And while we're on the subject, Teddy Bear, if you can hear me, my dear, you are now my first moderator on my channel. So while you are here, please keep an eye out. And if anyone, there you go. Thank you so much, Teddy Bear. I will let you keep an eye on everything for that. And Stu, thank you. Oh, aha. I see it now. Okay, there we go. It wasn't coming through very fast on my StreamYard chat.
No worries, man. I've got the live chat open here in front of me, so.
Okay.
Boom. Got him. Yeah, so personal information protection. Yeah, doxing people isn't cool.
Absolutely not.
Especially on YouTube, because he's got alt accounts. He's doing it again.
Is he?
It's cool.
Okay.
They've been deleted. Yeah, YouTube can take action against accounts that try and dox people, and they'll also take action against accounts where they go to. So it's something that needs to be dealt with quite quickly by mods if it's seen. YouTube can give community guideline strikes based on stuff in comment sections and stuff that appear in live chats as well.
Wanderer, you are probably right. I'm not even really sure why. I mean, I mean, it's as I say before, it's not a place. This is not a place for that. I mean, so and talking about the whole doxing thing, I mean, that's one thing that people fail to realize is that that is a federal offense now. I mean, that breaks federal right to right to privacy laws.
Right. That is something I didn't know.
Well, here in the here in the states, I mean, we have right. I mean, we do have federal right to privacy laws, and so posting of people's personal information, things like that is highly illegal. And of course, I mean, once you can get um, the information of people. Um, I mean, once you can get that information and start posting it out there, and I mean, of course, I mean, then things like harassment starting and everything like that. I mean, yes, it is. It's not. I mean, it's dangerous, and I mean, that's why. That I mean, that's one reason why you definitely need to be careful. I mean, I'm sure that that's something that's certainly one thing I know that you have that's something else like you would be talking about on your channel about protecting personal information.
Yeah, like I say, it's best to keep aliases and just just keep that information as well guarded as possible.
Mhm.
Uh, unless you're legitimately using a site to purchase something that the site is reputable and trustworthy.
And you have just received a wrench yourself, sir. So,
Oh,
uh,
thank you very much. I hope I don't need to use it.
um, so with as fast as technology moves these days, now one thing that when I was doing tech support for Dell way back in the day, they one thing they told us is you can go into a place say like Best Buy, buy the newest computer on the shelf, take it, take the box up to the counter, pay for it, walk it out to your car, put it in your car, and by the time you leave the building, it's already obsolete. Um, are there more advances these days for people to try to protect themselves? I mean, here you hear all the time like sign up for this service and pay like $20 a month and we'll guard your personal information with a guarantee insurance of up to, I think one of them was like $1 million. And then, you know, you have basically have someone else guarding your information. Can can things like that be trusted, or does it really need to be handled more on a personal level?
I mean, I'm always quite wary about these sort of information protection services because it's like even the most secure library, someone could break into it and steal the books. You know, uh, not necessarily everything, but something can be taken away from it. It's it's down to only give out your information if it's really, really, really necessary to. Uh, there have been things that I've wanted to buy, and for example, tobacco products for my dad. Um, you go onto the website, and then they they start doing age verification things, and they want you to send photos of your ID. That's a bit much for me, I don't want to be just giving photos of all this stuff to some random company online, and then I have a think about it a bit more that the item that I'm wanting to buy, well, I'll just go downtown and go to the Vapor Lounge and buy cartridges for the vapes there.
Uh, um, now but in in Scotland and in the UK, I mean, do you have companies like that who advertise saying, you can be hacked at any moment or your personal information can be stolen at any moment? Call this number and we will give you this.
NordVPN.
Yeah, exactly. Um, do, are they? Do you have a lot of companies like that there? I mean, I know that there's quite a few of them here in the States. I hear radio advertisements for them, pretty regularly. Um,
It does seem that a lot of it is fear mongering. Uh, the best way to be truly safe is just to be guarded and be mindful and be aware. Uh, a lot of these safety features, whilst yeah, they are very good, but do you really need them?
that's very true. That's very true.
I mean, there are a lot of people talking about VPNs or the newest ones these days, but the main sort of function for that is accessing content from places where you'd be region blocked out of. So there are a lot of US sort of state-specific news articles, things that would appear in US local newspapers that I can't access. I can't view the articles because the sites are non-compliant with EU laws. But then from just a Google search and looking for another article from another newspaper or another state, I can find the information I'm looking for. So it turns into you could be paying quite a lot of money for a function that you're not going to be using all that much.
And the prices for a lot of those services I've always thought are very, very outrageous. I mean, paying $20 a month for a VPN and a guarantee of if this information is compromised or what have you, then you're gonna we're willing to throw back in $1 million worth of security or what have you. I mean that it's another one of those situations where it almost sounds too good to be true, almost.
Well, I mean, these things do work and they do have functions, but it's like, does the everyday normal citizen need it?
Well, I mean, in your professional opinion, what do you think? Would you use a service like this?
I think as a level of me as just like a normal person who I just use the internet to get information, to upload videos and do the odd bit of research for videos. I don't need a service where I can access sort of specific state level information in the US, but then you could look at someone else who is maybe a US citizen who's in Europe who needs that information. It would be a handy thing for them to have. It's something that you'd need to think about on a per person basis. If it was something that I was finding was roadblocking me, if it was something that I felt that I needed, then I'd look into getting a VPN. But I I don't need it.
Right. Now I know. Now one thing when I did I used to do tech support for um, a cable internet phone provider here in the states for several years. One thing that they used to do for their actual customers, like residential customers, is at one point they would actually offer them a static IP address. Well, when um, and I think I just got your Discord message from just a few minutes ago, unless you sent it.
Cool. No worries. I sent that about 10 minutes ago.
They must be lagging behind today or something. I don't know. But they would offer residential customers static IP addresses. Well, they eventually phased that out for residential customers and only offered that to businesses. And people would call in all the time and they would say, hey, I would like to get a static IP address. Well, then you have to tell them, well, we no longer offer that to residential customers. Should that be something that residential users should be allowed to have, or is that better for something to have just for businesses?
I mean, it's the sort of thing that it's better if that's something that could change from time to time. I mean, I find that my IP address changes from time to time for whatever reason. So having a static one that's always the same, then if it is detected and shared, then it puts you at risk to having your internet traffic visible to anyone who seeks to see it.
Right.
And it's the sort of thing that I'm thinking that having a static one only really benefits like big companies that they're running like online games and stuff. So there's not going to be any issues with their traffic getting in and out to the people that have subscribed to their services. Grand Theft Auto Online, for example. As for the normal everyday man, you just don't want your information out there.
Well, I don't really do. I mean, really, I don't online game at all. It's just not really something that's just ever really appealed to me. I mean, if I'm going to play a video game, I would just, one player and just go through the game by myself. And a lot of people, there are millions of people all over the world who do the online gaming and things like that. And the whole I mean, is it easier to get into someone's personal information, say through like online gaming, or is it like the same process as, say, like trying to hack through into their internet, into their system, or what have you, or does it fall under the same category?
So your online gaming stuff that'll be a lot safer. You've got these companies have all their big servers and stuff with security levels built into it. There's a game called EVE Online, and their servers are renowned for being literally as tough as steel. Uh, so they would be extremely difficult to hack or crack your way into them.
Now, I've seen that you play the Star Trek online. I can I see your do not disturb sign up sometimes, and it says that you're playing.
STOODOGG is playing Star Trek Online.
Is that do you ever worry about somebody trying to get in or get hack your system or anything like that? I mean, I'm sure yours is probably locked up like Fort Knox, but um, is there always that little what if in the back of your mind?
I think it's just natural paranoia, but like I say, it goes back on the as long as you just keep yourself guarded, just be wary of everything, and you should be fine. I mean, I check my security logs every now and again, and there's there's not been anything happening really. There was an incident about a year or so ago, but I, I don't I don't think it was I don't think it was targeted against me. I think it was more just there was a mass sort of at the time there was a worldwide DDoS thing going on, and
Uh-huh.
I think my area was just unlucky enough to be caught in the umbrella of it.
Now there was an incident several years ago, and I mean it was all over the news when what was it? Oh, it was a adult friend finder. Their membership lists and everything like that were hacked and stolen and posted online somewhere. And then I think there's been a couple of others that's happened to. Um, is that mostly just they don't have the updated security or the right people working for them, or is that a case of somebody was just good enough to get around whatever they have?
I think it's that it's there's an old song that used to go about called "The Internet is for Porn,"
Oh yeah.
and if if you were gonna go after information for people, probably the best places to go after would be your adult friend finders and Tinders and stuff like that. But in them knowing that, hopefully they've got some quite good sort of encryptions and security to look after the stuff that they hold there.
And that's that's one thing when I heard about it, when I read the news story, excuse me, I'm like, oh, okay. What was initially the purpose of trying to get this information, and especially usernames and logins and passwords, and would that be something that would also fall like somebody's going to try to blackmail someone, or were they trying to possibly just get like credit card information and they inadvertently got everything from the site?
I mean, I'm thinking that when it comes down to stuff like adult friend finder and that, there could very well be blackmail purposes. Uh, there are bound to be people using services like that from all walks of life, from just the normal everyday working man all the way up to corporate CEO with a lot of money. And then the oh, thanks for sending me your nudes. I'll share them everywhere unless you give me what 10,000.
Right. And then you it's that all goes back to the the whole scamming bit. The story, you read stories about um not even or just people from like Facebook or Twitter or some of these video chat sites and things like that, uh, something happens and be like, well, I'm going to post these pictures all over the internet unless you send me money or send me more, that I'm going to do that.
Yeah, send me money on a recurring basis, or do something for me, or I'll share this stuff online everywhere.
There was a case in Canada several years ago. There was a documentary I was watching. Young lady put herself out there like on Facebook and I think on YouTube. Like she would post videos of her singing, and she did like a video diary and all this other kind of stuff. And she started meeting people. Well, one of them she started getting to know, who was basically he was a predator, essentially.
Is this going where I think it is? Is this about Onision?
No. This no. Honestly, I really didn't know anything about that story at all until I think Hatman mentioned it at one point, but there was another couple. I think there was another couple of sites. Then I'd heard about the whole thing. I watch Drunken Peasants,
Yes,
pretty much on a regular basis. But the girl was a victim of online bullying and harassment, and she eventually took her own life. And
oh my god,
I can. It was actually.
Bear with me for 2 seconds. I'm just going to quickly run to the bathroom.
Okay, no problem.
I'll be right back.
No problem. Okay, and so we will just take a few moments to look over everything here. All right, Stretch and Wanderer. I've seen that you guys have been kind of going back and forth here about the whole doxing issue. Now, the reason that I mentioned about it being illegal was, I mean, I understand the concept, phone books and this, that, and the other. But those are things that are really starting to be phased out in a way. Like I couldn't tell you the last time I actually saw a phone book. And I mean, yes, information is online, businesses, restaurants, things to that effect. But, really when it's being used with more malicious intent is where that line gets kind of crossed, in my opinion. And if it's being used for malicious intent, then yes, it can in fact violate right to privacy laws. And I have confirmed that with several people that I know who do work in IT and online security. But as far as like because personal information for almost anything is going to be pretty much wherever you try to find it. So whatever sparked the back and forth between Stretch and Wanderer, this is a place for healthy discussion. This is a place for debate, and this is as I told Hatman last week, this is a safe place. This is what we are here for. We're not here to dox people. We're not here to start trouble. We're not here to, do one thing and another. Debate is healthy. That's exactly what it's there for. It's like debating, this baseball team versus this baseball team, or it's for.
I have returned.
I was just noticing the dialogue between Stretch and Wanderer, so I was just addressing that. But guys, once again, this chat and this stream, this is strictly a safe place. This is a place for healthy discussion, debate, everything like that. This is not a place to start drama. This is not a place to start feuds or whatever. We're all just here to have a good time. And I know STOODOGG is having a pint. I'm having one. So if you drink them if you got them. That's basically what I'm going to say right now.
When I was down at the bathroom, I grabbed my third beer.
I'm
a
actually
bottle of Tennant's finest lager.
I'm actually on my second Yuling traditional, one of the oldest breweries in the states here. Um,
Cool.
I ran to the store and grabbed a 6 pack before I came back to meet up with you before we went live today. So I'm just like, if he's gonna have a few, then I'm gonna have a few too. It seems only right.
Teddy
Uh,
Bear says that she's heading out, so we'll catch you
oh,
later.
all right, Teddy Bear. Well, be safe out there, and I will see you in Discord. And thank you for coming by. And please make sure to come by again next week. And if you need anything, Teddy Bear, please don't hesitate to message me. Um, so and she actually brought up another one that actually had a bunch of information stolen, which was the Ashley Madison site.
Mm.
Um, and I'd completely forgot about that one. But no, the story that I was actually just telling you,
Yeah,
I'll
so you mentioned that it ended up in, unfortunately, a suicide.
yeah.
Uh-huh. And that's that's absolutely awful when that happens. It's like people feel that they're so powerless that they turn to death as the only uh, answer to their problems, which is, it's shocking. There is always a way out that is not that one. I think it's that people need to realize that no matter how bad things get in life, it's it's not worth dying over. You know.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree. And I will. I'll actually dig up. Um, I'll go back and see if I can find that. It was on one of these crime crime news story channel or shows from Canada. I'll see if I can dig it up and I'll send you the link to it if you'd like to watch it. Um,
Yeah, I'd definitely like to have a look at that.
um, so when it comes to right now that you're aware of, what are the biggest scams and hacks and everything going on right now? What are the ones that are really standing out right now that people should be aware of?
Well, I'm honestly not sure. Mostly the ones that seem quite prevalent to me are email phishing scams. So that is, you'll receive an email from someone claiming to be a delivery company, saying that it wasn't possible to make a delivery, and the email will have a link to click on to open your account with whatever the company is. So straight away, if you don't have an account with that delivery company, then you know it's dodgy. But if you do, and then you click on it and you feed in your information, your password and username, then the guys on the other end get that, so they can then access your account, and then they'll have access to your address and whatever other information is on there, which may be financial, which they may be able to use for buying things, card payments, that sort of thing. If you're so in the UK, we have a security code on the back of our bank cards. If that information's stored there, then they can make card payments from your account to buy themselves whatever within the bounds of however much money you have in the bank.
Right.
But
Uh,
there are there are more basic ones along that lines, like there are ones that will come from Facebook or YouTube that just want to hack into your accounts, probably for the purposes of spreading more spam about.
And I've actually just reached out to a good friend of mine who actually does a lot of computer and IT work, and I just sent him the link in his DMs on Discord, and he's going to be joining us here in
Cool.
just a few minutes, and I'm sure
Brilliant.
that he will have some questions for you. Um, so what part of Scotland are you from?
I'm from the East Coast.
Because I've seen the California flag in your videos. Now, do you still live in Scotland, or do you live in California now?
No, so that flag is, and the Wanderer will know about this one. That's a New California Republic flag from Fallout.
Oh, okay.
I'm a big Fallout fan, so the differences between the California flag and this one is that the bear has two heads, because after a nuclear war and a couple of 100 years, these guys mutated to have two heads.
Okay. Honestly, when it comes to games and everything, I'm a little more nostalgic. Like I still have a PS3, and I still play the Assassin's Creeds and the Batman games, and I still like to play the Wolfenstein. Because it's just fun to play a World War II game where you can just go around just killing Nazis, is they glorious bastards.
I do think I have the classic old school early 90s Wolfenstein first person on my GOG account, which I quite like enjoying a game of that every now and again.
Yeah, Doom and Quake and all of that.
Oh yeah, man, the classics.
You can't beat them. And my buddy Justin is here, so I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. Justin, how are you, my friend?
Doing pretty good, man. Thanks for having me on your live broadcast.
Hello, Justin.
Oh yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
STOODOGG.
Justin.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
STOODOGG was speaking to you.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I said hello. Hello, Justin. There. I am STOODOGG. How are you?
Yeah, gotta love technology.
It works sometimes.
Well, they say it's only as good as the person using it.
Yeah, and over here there's a PEBCAC problem. Problem exists between keyboard and chair.
Now, if you've been listening for a little while, Justin, STOODOGG and I have been talking about the scammers and hackers and everything that goes on nowadays, and so I know that you also do this, or you do this, IT work and things like this for a living, and I wanted to bring you on and see if there was anything like you wanted to mention about all of this, or if you had some questions for STOODOGG, and see what other information that we could give out to the people today.
Okay. Yeah. What all have you guys discussed before I was able to start listening in on it?
We've really gone over email scams, the whole Nigerian debacle, send me this, get this in return. Elderly people being, taken advantage of, having their information stolen, kids being scammed on games and everything. That's, basically kind of where we've been for the last little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So the best thing that you can do is whenever you get an email that somehow makes it through, because most of us use like Gmail or something, and their filtering has actually gotten probably way better and will filter out some emails that probably shouldn't be filtered out, which is a better policy to have.
I do find that. I find it's quite strict these days.
But one of the best things you can do is whenever use your gut instinct. If something sounds like it's fake, it probably is fake. You know, one thing that you can do beyond that is if your gut's telling you something's wrong and you're like, okay, well, let me investigate this further. Look at the email address. Look who it's coming from. If let's say you bank with Chase Bank, and you get this email from the bank that is saying, if you don't respond to this email with this information, to confirm your social security number or something, then we will close your account, or at least at the very least, we'll put it on hold, and then we will close your account out. Something scammers do. It's the, playing on your fears. You're getting your anxiety to go. Well, if you expect emails from Chase Bank, if you have consistent emails and you bank with Chase, the thing that you can do is look at previous emails that you've received from them. Previous emails would actually would have the right address. Well, if you look at the end of the email address and it's chase.com.nz or chase.com.eu or whatever, there's something off about the last part of the email address or the email address entirely, then it's a scam. Just write it off. Don't respond to it. And really anything dealing with your bank, the first thing I would say is if you get an email from someone claiming to be your bank, first thing you do is call your bank, tell them what's going on, and let them know, because they will either confirm or deny it. The benefit of calling your bank also will notify them of a scam that is going around that they may not be aware of. If they've had that scam going around, they will notify you, but if it's a new scam, they will then put it in. They'll gather the information. They'll alert their security team. They'll alert their legal team. And then they will alert all their customers. So by making that phone call to confirm whether or not, your bank or whoever, financial institution or whatever you're dealing with will go much farther. So basically, if it looks suspicious, if it's trying to get your anxiety going, make you nervous, and play on your fears, don't respond to that email. Especially if it's not from a legit source, but call whoever you're supposed to call, because usually if it's a legit message from your bank, they tell you not to respond to the email. They give you a phone number to call, but even then too, you have to be suspicious of that. Don't call the phone number in the email. Call the actual bank phone number. Like I've got a car loan, I've got a motorcycle that I'm paying for. So whenever I get transmission from them, I just call the numbers I already have saved in my phone, and they'll either confirm or deny it. And also, too, the best thing is there is no Nigerian prince. They aren't going to give you millions of dollars, because
sure they are.
I mean, think about it. Think about the Nigerian prince scams. Why would they be willing to randomly contact you and give you millions of dollars for doing whatever? It just doesn't make sense. And so it's almost like some of the people who've been scammed were just really naive, and they could have been taken for anything. A lot of them were the same people who see a magic trick and go, "Oh my gosh, that guy is really magical," not realizing that's just sleight of hand, And in the early days of the internet,
how do you explain David Copperfield making the Statue of Liberty disappear?
Well, see, that guy really is magical. I mean, anybody who looks like David Copperfield and can date Claudia Schiffer has got some magical abilities beyond my comprehension.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure that STOODOGG may have a chance with Claudia Schiffer. You never know these days.
I mean, well, these days, she's like almost 60. So,
Well, I was going to say, I think STOODOGG's probably more like a Jennifer Aniston kind of guy, she's in her 50s, and she's like, still hot. So,
yeah.
STOODOGG, let me ask you this. Now, in the part of the world that you live in, like, what are are there, and I may have already asked you this, and I'm just asking it in a different way.
Sure.
Are there, what kind of scams do you usually see or run into, or that you come across in your part of the world? Like, what is the one that's most prevalent that stands out to you?
It's also very similar to what Justin was saying. There is a lot of the scams related a lot to the bank and TV companies, Sky, Virgin Communications, stuff like that. That these emails will contain a link of some kind, and it will be the playing on your fears kind of thing. Your account will be deactivated or deleted within 24 hours unless you do this. Click the link below to solve your issue. But as Justin said, never use that wormhole within such an email. Always, make your own way to that front door. Follow back through the phone numbers with these companies that you have saved in your phone. If it's from the bank, my bank's phone number is written on the back of my bank card. So that's legitimately their actual number has been printed there when the card left the factory, So, find your own way to these people to inquire if you do get a sort of threaty sounding thing like that. And keep an eye on the email address it comes from. If it's tsbbank.com at stevesmith@gmail.com, then obviously there's something up.
Now, I don't know a lot about a lot of the companies and everything overseas. I mean, I'm sure that they, cable companies and banks and all of this. Has there been like and it's like we were talking about earlier, and Justin, I'll get your opinion on this in just a moment. But like what we were talking about with the whole adult friend finder and Ashley Madison situations, have you on this in just a moment? But
Yeah.
like what we were talking, somebody's got some echo coming from somewhere.
Yeah, I couldn't hear STOODOGG, so I've tried to put some echo, or tried to put something on.
I was gonna say, yeah, you may want to like pause the live stream because it's gonna echo for all of us.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything
I've
like
got my live stream muted at the moment?
Like I said, I couldn't hear him. So could you kind of give me the gist of what he said?
Well, I'm gonna get into that in just a minute. But have you seen anything to that scale in Scotland or in the UK, like just in that particular region?
I mean, no, there hasn't seemed to have been like a massive sort of centralized sort of event here. I'm thinking that the Ashley Madison thing, which seemed to have been mostly US centric, it can seem centralized there because there are a lot more people there. If there is a data breach that happens, it seems that there are a lot more people affected in the States than across Europe because there are more people.
Mm.
So I'm wondering if something is just, it's equally as serious worldwide, but it just seems that it seems more serious in one country because there are more people talking about it, more people posting about it on Twitter, more people posting about it on Facebook.
Right.
So
is there
these things do seem to be quite worldwide and fairly decentralized. Obviously, depending on whether if it's a site that has worldwide access.
Now, say for example, like you make a profile, say anywhere, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or some of these dating sites or online gaming or whatever, are you still do you think are you more vulnerable when you first set it up, or are you still as vulnerable either way?
I think the best thing to do if you're creating a profile anywhere is be a little bit creative with the information that you give it. Don't give it your real information. That's what I do. Like I just feed lies into these things now, and I think that's the best policy. But the thing is that if there was ever an issue at a later date, you'd then risk a termination because you lied to it. But ultimately, if you did lose whatever the account was, your information would still be safe.
Right.
It's a bit of a double-edged sword, especially if it's a paid service as well.
I was going to say, you don't seem like the kind of guy who's just like making profiles on like random websites or things like that. And if you make anything, I'm sure that you lock it down with everything that you can possibly think to do with it.
Oh, now definitely. After the last few years of YouTubing, everything now is locked down and secure, and anything that wasn't is deleted, is gone. So it was like a moment of sudden realization came across me that you need to be as secure and as safe as possible with names and nicknames and information. You log into Facebook and they want to know everything about you. Like, what school did you go to? Like, I'm Jamaican Technical College. I've never set foot in Jamaica in my life, but
like I went to the Jamaican Institute of Technology where I majored in smoking weed and Rastafarianism, and yeah. So why do you need to know where I went to school all of a sudden? Why does that matter?
Oh yeah, that's like one of those things where.
Can you hear everybody now?
Yes, I can. I switched to my computer because I was on my phone earlier, and I think. Cool. Nice to meet you, STOODOGG.
Hey, man.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you look at personal information that some of these guys give. That's another thing too, is don't give out personal information, because even legit student loan companies have had some problems with that, where they'll call and be like, hey, we just need to confirm, we just called you because we need to confirm that we're talking to you and we want to discuss your student loans with you. And it's like, and then they start off asking immediately for your birth date and your social security number. And it's like, you realize this is horrible policy. And I've told them before, I'm not going to talk to you because how do I know you're not spoofing the phone number? Let me call you. And, they get upset with that. And I'm like, well, this is my information. It's my account. And, I'm going to take extra security measures to ensure that I'm protected.
Well, now, one thing that STOODOGG and I were talking about before you came on, and I was making the point about like massive security breaches and.
Oh yeah. I heard some of that about Ashley Madison.
The adult friend finder information that ended up on the deep web, and then the whole Ashley Madison hack that took place and everything. And now I know you do stuff like this, for a living, and you've studied it, thoroughly.
Yeah, I'm actually going back to school to get my master's in cybersecurity.
That was something else I was going to ask you about, STOODOGG. Do you have a degree in like computer science or security or anything like that, or is this just something you studied on your own?
It's just all just stuff that I've picked up over the last few years, just in talking to people, in things that I've read, and just things that I've seen and just picked up from terms of service stuff, websites online. I'm just a guy with a microphone.
Well, I will say this now: if you have any questions or anything, or if you need some help with something, like if you're doing research and stuff, Justin is in my Discord server. Send him a request,
cool.
and I know Justin would be glad to help you out.
Oh yeah, most
Excellent.
definitely. Yeah,
Nice one.
Yeah, because one of the things that I'm wanting to do is get some cybersecurity certifications and get my master's in that.
He wants to go work for the feds, is what it is.
I want to stop. I want to stop like child predators and human traffickers. That's really the things. Like that would be my dream job.
Yeah, man.
Walking those bastards away.
That's definitely a good goal to go for.
Now, Stu, do you ever dark web surf or anything like that?
No, I've never actually been there. I've never actually went that far. Part of it is I'm not entirely sure how to access the deep webs, and how to also stay 100% secure and anonymous whilst I am there. Those are the main sort of barriers to me that I find.
Well, I'm not. The reason I was asking is that I'm not really. I've never been on myself, so I'm not 100% on. Like, I know you have to have the Onion browser and all of this. There's certain browsers that you have to use and all of this. I know that. I don't know if you watch Ron on Surviving Life. I don't know if you watch his channel or not. He's actually, I believe, in your part of the world.
I was going to say I recognize his channel name.
Yeah.
I think I know the guy you mean. I think I've only seen one video by him, and it was about Jared Genesis.
Oh gosh!
No. Hey, that name is evil here. That name is evil here. we don't speak. That he's kind of like the Voldemort of this channel. We don't say his name.
He who will not be named.
Look, you guys need to be careful making fun of such a serious martial artist as him, because with his flailing arms and just lightning fast reflexes, he might hurt us.
Yeah, that's true.
Can literally tornado your house down.
No, I watched some of his martial arts videos that he did, and I was just like, I've got 6-year-olds at my dojo who could kick his ass.
So, and the reason I was asking about that is because I know that there are a lot of security issues and breaches and ending up in places you don't need to be on something like that.
Along those lines, stay away from TikTok. I'm just going to go ahead and say that, because a lot of problems exist with that platform.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about that. If you guys, STOODOGG, what do you know about that? And then Justin will let you follow up.
Okay, so TikTok is a social media platform. It's kind of like it's a video sharing platform similar to a platform that used to exist called Vine. It's where people can make short video clips from their phones and upload them. And it's mainly marketed for younger people, school kids, to share funny videos with each other. But that's made it a prime target for predators. And also, I believe that the company that owns TikTok it's a Chinese company with a terms of service under Chinese law that it allows them to take and hold a great deal of information and to trade and distribute that information. So let's imagine I had a 5-year-old daughter and she made a video on TikTok and uploaded it. She'd then be giving a license to have that video displayed on billboards throughout China, which is
I didn't know that part
creepy as
Yeah, I
heck.
didn't either.
But yeah, it's there are quite a few things like this, like face morphing apps that seem to be coming out now.
Oh yeah, Instagram has, or not Instagram, but Snapchat has one, and that was something that that was a video that Ron had made a while back. It was it's a face morphing to make you look like you're a baby or like a small child or something like that.
But they were collecting and harvesting information from people and sort of distributing it to companies that were selling, say whatever the local brand of cola was. A video from TikTok could end up trying to sell something like that in that local area.
Well, and on top of that, some of the other stuff that along those lines, with it being tied to the Chinese government, no company in China is allowed to exist unless it has ties to the CCP. And for people who don't know, that's the Chinese Communist Party. And one of the things that they do is they use this to data mine to collect information on their users and just store it. So one of the problems they've had with some of the Huawei servers and Huawei devices and Huawei 5G towers is they actually will use it. They've put vulnerabilities in so they can have access. They have backdoor access to everything. So these companies and these nations and these cities, when they're like getting these great deals from these Chinese companies, they're basically giving the Chinese government what they want, which is more information on a global scale. And they can also then control the media and the free speech of people outside the borders of China. TikTok is probably the best example. The most public example that we had was when some people with the NBA criticized China, and then suddenly the NBA organization itself and several players came out condemning that person, and they were talking about pulling because there's one of the owners of one of the teams, and they were talking about making him sell his ownership in the team because he offended China, and China's like a growing market for him. TikTok is probably the most widespread example of that. One of the things that they do is you can post videos criticizing the U.S. government all that you want. They'll let that stay up there. But the moment you post a video criticizing the Chinese government, once it's brought to their attention, they will remove that video and possibly shut down your account. There's also terrorist videos, terrorist recruiting videos that they use, where they put the hearts on it and all this other stuff, using some of the filters to make terrorism look really sweet and cute to young kids that are outside the borders where the terrorist organizations exist. So all of that stuff is cool, but don't you dare criticize the Chinese government. And one of the things that that people don't know is when you download TikTok, you are giving them access to everything on your phone. You're basically giving the Chinese government access to your iPhone, to your Android device. And I don't know about anybody else, but that scares me. That scares the living hell out of me. And that's one of the reasons why I won't have anything to do with TikTok. And plus, the fact I'm in my 30s is enough for me to go, you know what? I'm a grown-ass man.
You're a real man.
We're too much of boomers for that stuff.
Yeah,
we're me and Justin, we're Gen X, man.
No, actually, Chris, we hate to burst your bubble, but we are the first ones out of the gate when it comes to millennials. We are as old as you can be and still be millennials.
You shut your filthy mouth. You shut your filthy mouth.
But really, though, we straddle the generation between that, because they call us Zennials or the Oregon Trail generation, because the last part of Gen X and the first part of the millennial generation have a very unique experience. And, basically we grew up with the internet as the internet was growing. But that's how our teen years were spent. So we were like the first ones out of the gate to really experiment with all of this stuff. So by the time the younger millennials came along, the internet was pretty much their defining feature. Whereas Gen X is like, internet, that sounds cool. Whatever.
And STOODOGG, I on the pint scale, I've caught up with you. I'm on my third one. So
cool.
I'm on my third cup of coffee. So
yeah, but I mean, it's nighttime where Stu is, and it's 4:00 in the afternoon here, and so I'm just a good old Irishman, and STOODOGG's a good Scotsman. So we're having a drink together. We're crossing cultural boundaries here right now. That's what.
Three different Scottish beers in front of me.
So what's so interesting is one of the things I've looked into my family history some, and I can't really determine if my ancestry is more English or Scottish or Irish, because I've had English people look at me and they go, "You look more like a Scotsman."
But what exactly does a Scotsman look like? I mean, besides like red hair, maybe, is there like a distincting factor? I don't know.
I think that's a Scottish gene, because my beard grows in with like ginger flecks in it, although my hair is like black.
I was just about to ask you: is your hair naturally black, or is that like a dye job?
No, it's not naturally black, with the occasional gray.
and a lot of Scottish too. They when you look at the builds of their bodies, they have a very stocky build. The barrel-chested, shorter arms and shorter legs, but they've got upper body strength for days.
Well, that's one of the sort of Scotland Highland games is the caber tossing.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you, STOODOGG, do you rock the kilt every once in a while?
I don't actually own one. I've only ever rented them in the past for like weddings, but it's something that I want to get my own one. I'm not sure of the colorings of the tartan, but it's something that I want to definitely get and wear it without boxers.
Well, that's the universal question. What do Scotsmen and Irishmen wear under their kilt? Nothing.
Nothing.
So
we're free flowing the whole way, man.
So funny story about that. One of my friends at his wedding, to celebrate his Scottish heritage, wore a kilt, and basically he was like, he and his groomsmen were talking. They were like, "Should we wear this traditionally?" And they were like, "Why the hell not? It's a wedding." And they all like took their boxers off, and so at the wedding they're all standing there traditional. And I was like, "Yeah, brave on you guys there," because all it would have taken if they would have been one really bad gust of wind, and
Yeah, and then the entire wedding party would have gotten more than an eyeful, I'm sure.
a brown eye full.
So now, when it comes to now, you were just talking about TikTok and everything. Is there more? Is it more of an issue on a platform like that where you're going to be dealing with people trying to get your information, or do you see it also on things like Instagram, Snapchat? I mean, obviously Facebook. I mean, those are. I don't know how much they've actually, locked up their servers and everything over the years. What is there one? Is there? I don't know if I would necessarily call like Snapchat or anything like that necessarily a platform. More as just like just social media, basically. Or I mean, I know you can put the word platform with social media, yes, but is there one that really stands out more as far as giving people an opportunity to not necessarily scam people, but maybe steal their identity or make a fake account under them or something like that?
You can always have your identity stolen because somebody socially engineers you and tricks you into giving over that information. And that comes down to a social engineering issue, regardless of platform. The platform just gives them a new avenue. But the one thing that I would be more concerned about on that is, as far as security, is when you look at Google and Facebook, they have really tight security, because if they wind up having a data breach, I mean, that's pretty much all their company is data. So not only would they lose advertising dollars, because that's how most of their money is generated, but they would lose a lot of credibility. You would see like an economic fallout. You would see nations and the EU imposing strict fines on them and more regulations. So with those companies, it is actually in their best interest to have that security protocol, have better security protocols and develop new ones, and even try to improve the open source security programs and code that people use, because for one, they're benefiting from it too. And if they do any improvements in this nation, you have to contribute to open source code if you're using open source code, and you can't just take open source code, develop your own thing with it, and then sell it. So I'm not really concerned about a data breach on that. And really with TikTok, you're probably not even going to have a data breach. But the problem with something like TikTok is you've got the Chinese government automatically has access to it. And that's just one of the problems with TikTok. When you start looking at the other problems, we've seen the videos that others have done where they expose the pedophiles on there. And one of the things that you can do with this platform is, and I'm sorry moving back into this, but this is something I do want to mention. You can post a video on TikTok and just leave it open for anybody to just do a musical duet with you. Well, there are these guys in their 50s who are taking videos of 16 or like 12 to 16-year-old girls and doing duets with them. And it's just like, I mean, it's disgusting, because for one, why is a 50-year-old man on that platform? Why was he one of the early adopters of it? Now that it's becoming more common, you can kind of understand a little bit more why people above 30 would get more into it, because the quarantine just made it explode. Oh my gosh, TikTok is like a virus. It spread really rapidly and we can't get rid of it. But
literally went viral.
Yeah, it's called a viral load.
a viral video platform went viral.
Yeah. And so these guys, they're taking these videos and they're doing them, and when you see them, they're disgusting. And it'd be different if they were doing those same dance moves and the same type of videos with women their own age, or if a woman was like 21, a lot of us would be, that's kind of disgusting if it was a 20.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine and well doing stuff like that in Cougar's nightclub.
Yeah. It's
So, are you or is that something you're more familiar with there, STOODOGG?
I've been in the over 35s nightclub a few times.
Are you a cougar hunter? Is that what it is? I mean, nobody's
I
gonna.
think it's more along the lines of cheap beer. Free entry and cheap beer.
It's like wherever I can get the cheapest drink, whatever.
And I do want to point out that there is a difference. Like when you say cougar hunter, it means you're trying to hook up with a cougar. But if you say a Karen hunter, that means you're just trying to take down a bunch of Karens on social media.
So, one thing that I've always, okay, let's talk about this platform for just a moment. Let's talk about YouTube for a minute. Now, as all three of us have clearly seen over the last, I would say, probably year or more, before COPA went into effect and everything like that, you had platforms like YouTube that were more Johnny on the spot with taking down, spam videos and obviously like recruiting videos for movements that, are obviously harmful. Definitely they were more, they were a lot quicker to take down. I'm trying not to cough, and I failed horribly. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Hang on, let me grab a sip of the beer here. That's better. But they used to be a lot more Johnny on the spot with taking down videos of people who were clearly predatory and everything like that. Now we've seen an abundance of where you can do report after report after report after report. Channels get to stay up, videos get to stay up, comments get to stay up now more than ever. Is that going to be something? I mean, is it just that they're falling behind because of everything that's been going on? Do they not really care, or is it to the point where they are just trying to basically, and as much as I hate to say it like this, satisfy everyone, quote unquote?
I think they are afraid of a lawsuit, honestly, because while it is their platform, while you agree to their terms of service, that doesn't stop lawsuits. And eventually a legal department gets overworked and, you start going, okay, should we settle or not? And so what I think they're doing is they're waiting to get substantial reasoning to take a channel down. Now, they'll take videos down. They take videos down all the time. They demonetize videos way more than they take them down. But usually if they take a video down, the most common cause is for copyright violations. So,
STOODOGG, as a YouTuber yourself, like what is something that you've really seen or noticed with these particular videos and everything? Like, because you've seen a lot of the people that I've seen on here, a lot of the videos and everything that I've seen on here also. What is your opinion on why this isn't being handled, or things aren't being handled in a more timely manner or properly the way they used to be?
It's an odd one. I don't know if YouTube has struck some kind of a deal or an arrangement with the US government or the state of California that anything that happens on YouTube is governed more by law than it is by the YouTube rules. So if something appears on YouTube that is illegal and shouldn't be there, that YouTube can't step in and deal with it. It has to be a police force or a government body that deals with it. We've seen in the last few days an animal abuser whose videos are still up, and people have been reporting them. People have been pinging YouTube on Twitter about them, but they're not being addressed at all. Whereas if someone has an issue with their monetization, they ping YouTube on Twitter and they get a response like that, even though there is a pandemic going on and they have less staff. So, is it like saying, I've been handed a bad beer, but you can't blame the bottle? Is YouTube that sort of moved away from things that is regarded as a bottle or a street wall where graffiti is being placed on it? There is a thing with copyright, the safe harbor provision, where YouTube has to deal with things in a certain way. So I'm wondering if after the COPPA Act, that now they're almost shielded and can't touch anything to prevent themselves from becoming liable.
Yeah, and I know with some of the illegal stuff that has occurred, back during the Bush administration, people were wondering why Twitter was not taking down the accounts of known terrorist organizations and known terrorist supporters. And the Bush administration had actually told Twitter not to take them down because what was happening is they were basically giving hints to where they were. And so that was helping our, not just us, but all the coalition forces be able to track down terrorist cells and terrorist groups. So it may be the same type of thing there, that one of the reasons why they're not going to take down some of these animal abuse videos or these other types of videos where people are talking about, pedophilia type of things is that, okay, we want to be able to get as much incriminating evidence as possible on this person. And the other issue too is, with the animal abuse videos, someone could always say, well, we filmed it like we did a movie. And they could always say it was staged, even though the evidence could be right there. Like, okay, this person has no special effects or film capabilities. And then you've got others like with the free speech issue. It's like, well, I'm not committing the act, so I can talk about it in this way. Or, I'm playing a character. And it's kind of like one of those weird things that in the law that most decent people would never go to, but the indecent people cling to the First Amendment as their go-to for everything for their obviously perverse reasons, because not a single one of us here today has made a pedophilia joke or talked about being a pedophile in the way that, others, that we know of on YouTube have said that, yet they keep their channels. Not a single one of us, I'm pretty confident that not a single one of us in this discussion here has ever abused an animal and had that on video. Because it's like one time I was going to school early in the morning and accidentally hit a dog. I pulled the car over and tried to find the dog and couldn't. The dog had run off. And I felt so bad about that. So I couldn't imagine, doing that to an animal intentionally and filming it and putting it up on the internet for the world to see. Because, you know, the times that I think any of us have accidentally run over an animal, it's
heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's like, crap, man, this is not the way I wanted. I did not want this to happen during the day. Because we all have pets, we know how we get attached to them, and if something happened to them, it would rip our hearts out. So we're kind of putting ourselves in that very sympathetic spotlight. That's like, man, let me at least go find the owner.
Yeah.
My whole thing is, and it disturbs excuse me, it disturbs me to no end to know that, because I'm a YouTube junkie. I mean, I spend probably more time watching YouTube than I do really anything else.
You inject it straight into your eyes.
Yes, I do. It's a Clockwork Orange kind of situation, you know. I put myself.
Chris has set the chair up himself.
Yes, like I put myself in a straitjacket and I hire a dominatrix to hold my eyes open and drop water in them so I can just never stop watching.
No, I think you're clever enough. You would have invented a contraption that would periodically just drop the water into your eye, the saline as you need.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I should put a patent on that. But the more that I come across, and a lot of the channels that I'm finding now, there's one that I've found called Ready to Glare, and she addresses a lot of the same subjects like you would see Hatman talk about, or surviving life and things like that. And plus, she's absolutely gorgeous. And if she ever just happens to stumble upon this video, I would just like to throw that out there.
Who is this again?
Her channel's called Ready to Glare. And I can hear.
I heard the name. I think I've seen her videos pop up in my feed a few times.
I mean, they're very informative, and like I said, she's very attractive. Also, actually, I didn't know about the channel until Raz said something. Hang on just a second here. GNM has said something to us. Hey guys, I heard STOODOGG and Widow's Son say they had never logged into deep dark web. How about Justin? Has he ever? Just curious.
No, I have not. By the time I got into computers and started making that transition into it and was curious about it, a news report had just come out that the FBI found a way to hack into and collect data on people using Tor. So that pretty much cured me of wanting to ever go on it, because I'm like, I know I'm not going to do anything illegal on it, and I don't really buy a lot of the Red Room stories that you hear. I think a lot of that's just urban legend, because it came about at a time the deep web was this big mysterious thing, and no one had the internet connection to do a live stream of killings or something.
I think the first story that I'd heard about the main areas of the dark web was that it was initially created by the US military.
Yep. And
that they're like, right, we can detect everything that goes on here. What do we detect? We detect each other. We detect the US military. It's like, well, let's just release it to the public then and see what they do with it.
Yeah, because the intention was everything is, because for people who don't know how the way that Tor works is, it's just layers and layers and layers of encryption, like an onion, hence the onion router.
The onion, yeah.
And so what happens is, it takes. So if I'm going to send a message to STOODOGG, I would type it up, and I would hit send, and then it just wraps it in a bunch of layers, and it would go to one computer that sits there and goes, okay, it unwraps the first layer, goes, okay, cool, I need to send this data to this next layer, to this next computer. And it bounces around to all these computers until eventually it winds up to STOODOGG. Well, the thing is, all of those layers in between wouldn't be able to see that I'm sending a message to STOODOGG. All they would know is they received a message from computer A, and then they receive it and they send it on to computer B. And only Stu and I would know that I've sent him a message. And one of the reasons why they released it to the public was, you're right, the U.S. military were the only ones using it. And what they decided is if we had a bunch of traffic using it, then nobody would be able to pick out which one was a message being sent from the spy to the field office versus, just some kid trying to find some hidden porn on the internet, or someone who's just trying to, because one of the things that people automatically go to the darkest places in their mind when they think about anonymous web browsers, when they talk about, the dark web. The dark web's not this big scary thing. A lot of people use it because of one word, and that is anonymity. And so when the FBI had basically hacked Tor, and the way they did that was, people had websites that were using Flash players, and they actually hacked Flash. And that's probably one of the reasons why Adobe is getting rid of Flash, I think.
Yeah, it's ending at the end of the year, I think, yeah. And
so yeah, it created a security problem. So Tor is probably going to go back to being mostly or really secure. But so it's not this big scary thing. Yes, big scary things do happen because we heard the story about Silk Road and the Dread Pirate Roberts, and the fact that on the Silk Road you could pay hitmen to take people out. And that's actually how he got caught. One of the ways he got caught. But yeah, you've got there are many more benefits to the dark web that people just simply don't realize. Another benefit is if you have sensitive data that needs to be communicated, well, it makes it that much harder for someone to be able to get that information by doing like a man-in-the-middle attack. But the biggest thing a lot of people really just need to know the most about the dark web or the deep web is that there are pages that cannot be searched through one of the many search engines. So you can't. So it'd be like if you go to a site, you log in. Well, you can't really do a Google search of Facebook messages. Facebook is a surface web application, but yeah, you have to be logged in to see the messages.
I was going to say, it does sound like a very, like a guys in offices suit kind of level that they can safely store their information there for their company or corporation to access and share throughout their offices throughout the world.
Yeah. They use it for a lot of that because you do have business deals that need to go through, but they also have to communicate through email. They have to transmit data. So it's not this big, deep, scary thing that people think it is. It's not this thing where illegal stuff exists. And I know at one point the Prime Minister of England was wanting to, I can't remember which one was wanting to do it, but they were wanting to ban encryption in England at one point. And immediately the banking industry was like, are you stupid? They're like, how do you think we use credit cards?
Well, now, hang on just a second. I was just stepping away to plug up my phone.
That's what she said. Sorry.
You're so funny. I was going to ask something, but it slipped my mind in between sitting back down. So if
The mind browser has closed.
exactly, no, no, it has stopped working. Close browser. Now let's reopen it. Um, so do either one of you think that once all of this is over with, whenever that may be, that YouTube will get back to business as usual and make, or okay, or in my theory has always been that a lot of these videos and things that are being posted, excuse me, and are not being taken down right now. Is this their way of maybe helping out investigators, or is it just to the point where they're just like, it takes too much time to go through all of this?
You know, it is quite interesting what Justin was saying, that people being investigated for whatever reason. So it could be that someone who is uploading videos of abuse may be doing it from random locations, like a coffee shop, a library, and then a bar, but then they're looking for someone to upload something from a specific location several times to work out that that is a person's home address.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case going on at all, because the thing is, what they would do is, let's say that someone consistently goes to a coffee shop to upload those videos. Well, you can easily identify. One of the things people don't realize is you can get information if you go to just a regular website. One of the jobs that I had before I worked in the field, or work as a business analyst, is one of the things that happened. I was a system administrator, and we used Drupal sites. And one of the modules you could download with Drupal would actually pull information. Whoever went to your site, it would pull the information from their device. And it would tell you everything you needed to know. Like, are they using an iPhone? Which OS version are they using? Are they using an Android? Are they using a PC? Are they using an Apple? It would just go through all of this stuff, and it would give you tons of information. And it would store it in our database for this, because and some of the reasons why you might want that information is trying to figure out what type of screen sizes you need to devote developing a website to. And also, too, if someone reports a problem and they're telling you, hey, this part of your site doesn't work, and it turns out that they're using an outdated version of iOS, then you can pull that information up and go, well, the thing is, you need to update your the version of your web browser. Because that happened several times with different clients. They were complaining they couldn't see parts of their sites, and we would ask them what version. Well, we'd have to walk them through the steps of that. Well, at least if we got the information, say, okay, go to the site now, log into it, we could look at that information and get all the information we would have asked them about. So there are benefits to that. Well, also from a law enforcement point of view, let's say someone, they're hitting this, they're going to this coffee shop to upload these videos. They're going consistently. It's coming from this IP address. So you go there and you observe, and you're like, okay, well, everybody here uses a Mac except for a couple of PC users, and we have data that it's being uploaded. We have secured a search warrant from Google, and they're telling us there's a guy who is using a PC that fits this description. You look for that. You look for all the PC users, and then you look for that specific PC, and then you further investigate. So it could help law enforcement even further, because then they could, follow the person. They could have detectives. They could have a tail, and then they could start securing a search warrant to stop additional animal abuse, to stop child predators. So tons of benefit in capturing that information. And so by Google leaving that up, they're like, okay, because if they totally stop the guy from uploading those videos, he's just going to create another account, go to a different platform, or totally go dark. And he's still going to keep doing those horrible, horrible things. So you're not any closer to actually stopping a crime. You just made your problem much, much worse.
It comes down to the sort of the conundrum that was seen in the movie. I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was about the Enigma decoding machines and the sort of what attacks do you stop and what attacks do you allow so that people don't know you're on to them. So if you allow a few more incidents to occur, you can catch your person who's doing these things and lock them up, rather than spooking them and they disappear out the clutches of the law to then continue on committing acts for a long time longer.
Well, see, the thing about it is like putting things like that up on a public platform. I mean, to me, it's really just self-exposure. Because if you're stupid enough to put stuff like that up on a public platform such as YouTube, I mean, yeah, you're getting your quote unquote voice out there, but at the same time, you're making yourself look bad, number one. And number two, you're making people aware of what you're doing. And number three, once people start, it's like with He Who Shall Not Be Named. There's smoking guns all over YouTube. And one of my main questions was, is all of this being left up for investigative purposes? Like, is this so they can download all of this, store it, and use it as evidence, or does YouTube just not give a shit? And that's what really bothers me. I can understand wanting to put measures in place to protect children from seeing content that they don't need to be seeing right now, such as and I'm only going to use him as an
I'm going to quickly run to the bathroom again. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Those beers, man, they're just going straight through me.
Hey, man, they're flushing the kidneys. And we'll wait till until STOODOGG comes back. But and while we have just a few moments here, so while we have just a few minutes here, see, we still have 5 people watching, and I do want to thank everybody for coming by today. Hit the subscribe button, like the stream. That I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot to have all this support for being a new YouTuber and trying my hand at this. It's like I was saying earlier, I have to remember that this is basically doing radio all over again in a way. But yes, thank you so much for everybody who has popped in today and are still listening or watching right now. So while we have a minute, Justin, what are you enjoying still working from home?
Oh yeah, man. It's one of the things I think's definitely changing in the industry is you've got a lot of older people who still are at the executive level who don't like the whole work from home thing, whereas I would say people under 50 have fully embraced working from home. and it's usually those who are 50 and older who have not embraced it. So it's going to be a game changer for not just IT, but for a lot of jobs, because a lot of jobs are basically computer based. Well, this quarantine is proving that a lot of these jobs you can do from home, and you don't need to drive in every day to work. Because one of the things that a lot of the older guys have been opposed to working from home is they're like, well, productivity is going to diminish. People aren't going to get as much work done. Well, actually, people have gotten more work done. Working from home has made people more productive.
Right,
So,
because they want to get their work done so they can go and sit on their couch and play their PlayStation or their Xbox or sleep or watch a movie or go play in the front yard or the backyard with the kids or, what have you.
well, and the other thing too, the bigger problem that I see happening is when you're in an office, there's this sense. One of the things I do have to say, before I get into that other thing, one of the things I do miss is physically seeing my fellow employees. But, overall, I mean, working from home, I am able to get up straight out of bed. If I need to get on earlier, it's so much easier for me to get on and work earlier. And if they need me to stay a little bit later, it doesn't really throw a complete wrench into my plans. So I'm able to do that and answer any other business needs. So for me, it's the benefits far outweigh the risks. And the other thing is too, now one of the problems I do see, and this is the other thing I was going to say, is I got friends who where they work, their bosses want them to turn their cameras on, be visible, and also dress business casual while at home. And I'm going, that's ridiculous, because I don't care what somebody's wearing or if they're not wearing anything. I don't care if someone's sitting on a beanbag, to borrow Ron White's analogy. Someone's sitting on a beanbag with Cheetos, completely naked, doing their work. As long as the work gets done, who cares?
Well, I was just about to say, I mean, if we were actually on camera right now, I mean, STOODOGG could just be sitting there in a T-shirt with no pants for all I know. I'm sure he might.
He's not.
I mean, I'm sure he
Don't
might.
worry, I'm dressed.
He's probably going to the pub later after he gets done talking to me.
All of our pubs are shut down, man.
That's right. I forgot.
Hence the fourth and fifth beer that I brought up here.
I'm sorry you grabbed two more while you were gone.
Okay, so the things I do say that's so funny about the quarantine are all the memes people are saying where it's because once the dolphins and other critters started returning to like Venice, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing! Nature's healing itself." The parody memes that came out after that are just hysterical. Like one where it was like that showed like a pigeon had landed on a skateboard. It was like, now that people aren't present anymore, the pigeons can finally skate in peace like they're always meant to.
Saw that one. I don't know if he's still in the chat, but the Wanderer, he's from a little bit further south. He's in Englandshire, but he had said recently, I believe it was in the Out of This World podcast, that the trees in his area had a different color after the quarantine. So, like, less cars going about were affecting the carbon dioxide quality that the trees were breathing in.
Oh yeah, I know there are maps that are showing like nitrous oxide levels or nitrous dioxide decreasing, carbon dioxide decreasing, and just from a month and a half of quarantine. Now 2 months, I think. Is it? Yeah, a month and a half.
It's amazing. Young Greta Thunberg should be quite happy about this.
Yeah, really. I'm willing to bet that there are a lot of climate change advocates who are somewhat disappointed because now they can't tell people to stop driving their cars.
The Wanderer in chat says he can indeed confirm that his trees look like the ones from the alpha days of Minecraft. Very bright.
So going back to what I was saying just a few minutes ago. Now, I understand the whole COPA thing being in place and its purpose, so children aren't exposed to content that they don't need to be exposed to right now, or even recommended content that they shouldn't be seeing. It seems to me kind of ever since that went in place, like things have, in some aspect, and I'm probably just overshooting here, but it's like things have gotten maybe a little bit better, but they've also kind of gotten worse in a way. What is your guys' stance on the COPA thing?
I don't know, that for me is kind of a mixed bag. I think my biggest problem with any type of legislation is you've got people who have never worked in a field that are now legislating that field. It's the kind of the same way that I feel when there are laws that directly affect women, that you've got a bunch of men who, if you gave them a diagram of the female anatomy, would be like, what's all this plumbing stuff here? But yet they feel fully within their right to pass laws on medicine or other things. And it's the same when it comes to technology. We've all seen, I don't know if y'all have seen this, but there's a video of Sundar Pichai. Can't really pronounce his name that well, but he is the CEO of Google right now. And he was in front of a House committee or a Senate committee, and these representatives of our government were quizzing him and asking him questions that he was going, look, I can't really answer that question because I don't know the type of permissions your phone is enabled. He's like, it's a yes or no, sir. And he goes, no, it's not. Again, you are asking about an iPhone. I don't know what permissions you have implied. He said, if you had implemented the correct permissions and given us access to it, yes, we could track your location. However, without knowing the permissions, I cannot tell you I can track that phone. And so these guys are quizzing the CEO of a tech company who knows what he's talking about, yet these men don't, and they're getting irate and indignant. And I'm going, well, the one you should be irate and indignant about is you, because you don't know what the hell is going on, yet you feel like you are fully capable of writing a law to that would regulate this. And it's kind of the same with COPA. So what happens is you get these people who say, we need to do this, we need blah, 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 and then they advocate for a law. And there are actual think tank groups who come together and they have cookie cutter laws that they then send out to representatives in different states to get those laws passed in those states. And really the only thing that happens is the people who propose the laws just put their names in. They just fill in their names. They don't read the law. They don't do any critical thinking regarding the law. They don't consult outside sources. So they wouldn't ever call the CEO or the CTO, the chief technical officer, the chief information officer, the chief security officer of Google or Facebook, and have them all come in to discuss this bill and discuss the pitfalls of it. No, what they do is they listen to some parental rights group and then they package the bill and then send it off. And we almost saw that with the PMRC hearings. A lot of this stuff about internet protection is just a rehash of the PMRC hearings. And while there are certain elements of COPA I can look at and go, okay, yeah, that's, the problem they were trying to solve is that on YouTube Kids videos, there were these very perverse things that were being marketed to kids and being shown to children. And parents, it sounded like, okay, so yeah, that stuff, yeah, that does need to stop, but should it be a federal policy that they have, that they then make a law that now has no rigidity to it? Or should it be one of these things where, they encourage the, like the FCC or the FTC, whichever one it would fall under, encourages these companies to have policies in place that meet these guidelines and protect children in this way? But it should be vague enough to where, not vague enough, but it should have enough wiggle room. So if anything comes out of the middle of nowhere, they can quickly adjust and adapt, because laws are not quick and they don't adapt. I mean, there's a reason why they are laws. They are basically written in stone. And so in some ways, I think the problem that they were trying to solve was, instead of using a small hammer to hammer a nail in so they could hang up a picture, I think instead they saw that and said, okay, we're going to do this. And then they used a sledgehammer to basically set up a picture to hang up on a wall. And we know that the sledgehammer would be too much in that case. And so my concern is, I don't think we have seen the full consequences down the road, because there have been a lot of YouTubers who have lost money. A lot of people are now getting demonetized for things that they shouldn't be demonetized for. I mean, Philip DeFranco talks about the news. Well, guess what happens in the news? A lot of things that children shouldn't hear. A lot of things that are pretty horrific. This whole thing with Joe Biden having now 7 women accuse him of sexual assault or sexual harassment. Well, if you talk about it on your YouTube channel, you're automatically demonetized. I mean, what can you talk about now that it will guarantee you won't be demonetized?
True. STOODOGG, what about you? What do you think about it?
So the COPPA regulations, I mean, yeah, they sound good on paper, but then in the enforcement of such regulations, how protective of kids really are they? Do they cover everything, or does the enforcement only really allow for going after perpetrators that are making money? Does it, if just Joe Blogs on the street was harvesting and collecting kids' information for whatever reason, he is then less of a target than the massive toy companies like Mattel, which were mentioned in the YouTube settlement to be collecting and harvesting and targeting kids below the age of 13. So it's like, what targets do they go after that are essentially going to net the best profit for the government, or any profit for the government? To go after just a single guy on the street would cost the government to go after him, so it does sound like a good rule, but it remains to be seen how it's enforced across the board from the YouTube stance of it anyway.
Well, yeah, and going on to the marketing to children line, when we were kids, Mattel marketed to us I mean, how many times were we watching Saturday morning cartoons or some TV show after school, and it was like, check out the new toy, boom, and G.I. Joe, blow up Cobra, that type of stuff. We saw that.
Or on the back of your breakfast cereal box, is it fill in your name and address here and send it to us with 5 stamps on the envelope, and we'll send you this toy, and we've now got your your son's information.
Yeah, and they know that these kids are going to see this toy and beg their parents for it, and the parents are ultimately going to buy it. And the way like a lot of these laws are, it's almost like they're treating advertising to kids for toys as though you're trying to sell them, my beginner sex toy set. It's well, I mean, that's the way they're acting. They're acting like that, and it's not. It's like no, they're not marketing anything inappropriate to them. They're marketing things that are age appropriate. And then you got these parents who get upset because they're like, well, I'll let my kid watch this video on YouTube, and it had an advertisement on the new Barbie, and my daughter clicked on it, and then she ordered straight from my phone using my Apple ID, and I'm like, why didn't you implement any parental controls? They're there. I have an iPhone. Parental controls exist. You're the dumbass who let your kid have full access to your phone. Don't blame the companies who did the marketing, and don't blame Apple because you didn't implement the security features.
Right. I mean, it's a lot of it is parental responsibility, and that's one thing that I've always said is that one thing that parents need to do is they need to be more aware of what their kids are viewing on YouTube, what they're looking at on the internet. I'd actually I'd mentioned something like that to Hatman last week. Talking about.
I think I was there at that point.
Yeah.
I think I'd said something that parents and their kids, they need to have these what can be difficult discussions, but they need to have them. I mean, just talk to your kids. Talk about what they're doing online, and talk about the dark sides of it, the negative sides of it. It's better that this information comes from a parent. It's better that it comes from the kid's parents than to come from
some weirdo on YouTube or whoever.
Come from another side of the coin as something bad is happening, or at worst, from law enforcement after something bad has happened.
Yeah.
Prepare your kids. Not everyone out there is good people.
And you are completely correct. And a lot of the situations that do occur when it involves it's like the story that I had mentioned to you earlier, STOODOGG, about the young lady who was being harassed online in Canada, and she ended up taking her own life because it wouldn't stop. Parents should really talk, like, sit them down. I mean, they like it. 5 or 6 or whatever. I mean, you can convey to them what you're trying to say, but as they get older, you really need to just sit down and have that conversation with them and just be like, look, there's going to be people on these platforms that you're on that are going to try to get you to do things that you don't need to do, send them things you don't need to be sending them, trying to get information from you that you don't need to be giving out. You need to be careful and make sure that the parent is actually, giving them basically telling them, if something like this happens, tell me immediately so we can address this, because that's one thing that really needs to happen is parents need to get more involved. Whereas, like, now just take my parents, for example. My parents were thoroughly involved in my life growing up, and of course, my parents being divorced, if I did something, my mom, bad enough, my mom was going to reach out to my dad. And that that was like a mental death sentence right there, all right away. Uh, um, but, you know, my parents were the kind of people, they were going to sit me down and they were going to talk to me about things, and they were going to, you know, tell me, these are the kind of people that you're going to run into as you get older, and you need to be careful when you go to places like this. And, and now parents are just perfectly content to dump their kids in front of their iPhone or their iPad or their tablet or Android or their television and leave them there. And like, not, and I'm not saying every parent's like that, but they're just going to drop them in front of these devices, and they're not going to take the time to actually go and check to see what they're watching or who's interacting with them or everything like that. And parents who do take the time to do that, I applaud them immensely. I mean, your kids at some point are going to be like, well, you're invading my privacy. You're invading my privacy. No, I'm trying to protect you, is what I'm trying to do. Because you hear stories about people online who will talk to kids. They'll, make them feel like they're all friendly and everything like that. They'll want to actually meet them. The kid is like, obviously younger than 18, and the adult is like in their like 30s or 40s, and then the kid could come up missing. And then that puts the parents and law enforcement in a bind, because now they don't know really what's going on. How long. I mean, they can go back and see how long this may have been going on over time, but it makes it a little more difficult. And, it bothers me to know, I mean, I have two nephews and a niece, and when they were younger, I mean, my niece is married. My nephew was just made head baseball coach at the college he used to go to. My other nephew is in college right now. But when they were younger, that's one thing that worried me, was because I knew these kind of people were out there. I'm like, what kind of world are they going to grow up in? And I think that a lot of the responsibility needs to be laid at the doorstep of the parents, and the parents really need to pay more attention, instead of just being like, hey, here's a tablet. Yeah, here's the Wi-Fi password. Don't worry, you'll be fine. I mean, what's it going to take?
I mean, it's something that it's just, I know this is going to sound a bit kind of boomerish, but it's such a different world now than it was from when I was a kid, because like when I was growing up, literally I had no connectivity like this in the early 90s, but now kids at school as young as 4 or 5 years old have internet enabled smartphones and have global connectivity to literally billions of people. Whereas me, it was just me and my buddy from next door sitting playing the SNES with 2 controllers.
Well, it's, and the world is changing. I mean, and technology moves so fast that it's basically, technology is basically, to me, it's like a tornado. It's constantly moving, it's constantly changing, and it's constantly changing landscapes and the people around it. So, I mean, if I'm not necessarily saying maybe that it should slow down, but maybe there could be an easier way to make I guess I'm saying I guess it'd be a little easier if there were a way to make technology a little bit and let it evolve, obviously, but make things a little more simpler for kids, a little bit safer. Like if you're putting out, say you're putting out a new tablet, okay, well here's this new tablet and it does all this really cool stuff. Oh, and then here is another version for kids that has these particular features on it. It allows the parents to be able to access that tablet from theirs so they can see what's going on and what they're looking at and all of this other kind of stuff. And a lot of people will immediately say, well, that's invasion of privacy, invasion of privacy. Well, no, not really, because if your kid is a certain age and you're wanting to protect them from a lot of the scumbags out there nowadays, that's perfectly fine. That's absolutely perfectly fine, in my opinion, because you're doing what you need to do to try to keep them safe. It's just like in any other capacity. It's like we've been talking about the whole time, internet security, computer security, account security. If something is too good to be true, then it probably is.
Uh-huh.
It all falls back under that same umbrella. And it's like I said earlier, the way that all of these spammers and scammers and these predators and all of this, the way they look at it is there's a sucker born every minute. And that's the scary part about it.
Well, and the thing is, they do already have like child-safe tablets in existence.
Yeah.
They are specific, but the inherent problem with a lot of them is they're all still using the Android platform. And I know a lot of people are going to, oh no, he's bashing Android. Believe me, I'm not. But one of the problems that does exist with the Android platform is whenever Android or Google updates the Android OS, your carrier may not, or the manufacturer of that device may not even implement the update. And there was one time a security vulnerability existed. Android fixed it. So all the people who had a Google device, like the Nexus, immediately got the update. Other people, if you're on Samsung, and I was on Samsung at the time, I was using I think it was a Galaxy S5. You were just SOL until your carrier released the update. But whenever there has been a security flaw found in an Apple product, every Apple user gets it as soon as it comes out. And so with a lot of those devices, the kid-friendly devices, they may not be as quick to implement the update. And a lot of parents just simply aren't as tech savvy and knowledgeable about the update.
Well,
And that's the thing, isn't it? Information and education.
you
know
know
how to protect yourself and know how your devices work.
You two gentlemen talk amongst yourselves for just a few minutes. Now, I have to go to the bathroom, so I will be back in just a few minutes.
All right. Good luck in there. I mean, that's the thing is, like, a lot of people, I mean, now I think Gen X and below, actually the second half of Gen X are a little bit more savvy on this, where they are going, okay, yeah, we do need to know when to update. But there are a lot of people who just simply are still ignorant of it. I mean, even they just expect them to work and update on their own. And I think I'm not picking on soccer moms when I say this, but a lot of times it is the stay-at-home moms, the soccer moms, who are like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to update that.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Me and Widows were saying that before, that when it comes to the elderly and computers, that some people might think that you install something on your computer and that's it. Like an antivirus. Someone could say, well, I've had it installed on my computer for 10 years and it never had a problem until now. Did you update it? Ever?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and it's so it's a really interesting statistic. A lot of people, I mean, we all know a lot of porn sites have are just riddled with viruses. That's just something that's like common knowledge in the industry, not in the porn industry, but in the tech industry. That it's not uncommon for guys who do tech repair to have to go, yeah, you've gone to these sites and these are all the viruses on your computer, and yeah, and I agree with Wanderer there about Android devices and Apple devices. I mean, I switched because the security is better, and I work in healthcare now, on the IT side of things. But yeah, it's common knowledge in the tech industry that when you have to do repair, that you're going to get a lot of viruses because someone didn't use antivirus protection, and then they went to those porn sites.
Uh-huh.
But
look, we don't need to know about your porn habits.
The Wanderer says that his mum still has a phone from around 2015 and it hasn't updated since. My phone actually becomes quite irritating when it feels that it hasn't been updated often enough. So it starts off it's like, hey, you haven't updated your phone in at least 28 days. Do you wanna do something about that? And then it starts giving me daily beeps about it.
Well, yeah. So, going back to the whole thing, like one thing a lot of people don't realize is one of the places you're most likely to get a virus, believe it or not, are church websites. A lot of church websites have horrible security. It's usually done by someone who is freelance.
Poorly educated with it.
Yeah, a lot of, and so they don't lock things down in a secure fashion, or they're like, well, hey, let's just host our own WordPress. Well, I worked at a place where every 17 hours we were adding a new patch to our WordPress sites, and that was because we had bought a service, and it was a hosting service, and that's who took care of all the patches. So there are a lot of sites sitting out there, and that they don't update it. Well, then they're suddenly getting hacked, and viruses are getting loaded up because there are tons of vulnerabilities on WordPress sites, because WordPress was not made to host websites or to develop websites. It was supposed to be for blogging, and then people just expanded its usage. So that's the other thing is, if people are making the mistake to host a site themselves and they're not doing any of the security maintenance. And that's why with a lot of these mom and pop shops and a lot of even church websites, you're more likely to get a virus than you are from a porn site.
Well, that's well, I mean, website hosting yourself has always been pretty much a crapshoot almost, because you had so many website hosting places like back late 90s, like early 2000s, like Angel Fire and GeoCities and all of this other kind of stuff, that it was really easy to make a website and update it and everything like that, but it was also really, really easy for them to get overtaken.
Well, guys, I've enjoyed talking to you. I'm actually about to have to hop off here.
He's got to go. He's got to go feed his porn fetish now.
Yeah. Just something about strippers and hand sanitizer does it for me every time.
And masks.
Oregon now has like drive-through strip clubs. So, So instead of like, I wonder what happened. Instead of like you putting $1 bills in their G-string, because you probably can't touch them now. like, what if you just threw like hand sanitizer and hand wipes at them?
It's replaced gold bars as a currency now.
So speaking of that, like my favorite thing that happened here was there was a Tennessee guy, like he and his brother went to several stores in Tennessee and Kentucky and bought up like all the toilet paper and hand sanitizer and hand wipes that they could find, and they tried to resell them on eBay and Amazon and eBay said, no, this is price gouging. And they got arrested for violating price gouging laws because two states have been declared a state of emergency at that point, and you can't price gouge in those conditions. And so they're like, well, we'll just donate all of this. And I'm like, man, this is beautiful.
But, well, Justin, thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. And I'll be doing an open stream probably within the next couple of weeks. I definitely want you to come back on, man.
Oh, cool. Thanks. I'd love to.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, STOODOGG. I subscribe to your channel. So.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome,
see, you're one subscription closer to that 1,000, man.
God.
Take it easy, Justin.
You too. Bye, guys.
See you later, buddy. Bye.
So Stu, I've kept you for over 3 hours, and I'm so glad that you came on today. Now I have to ask.
Well, like I say, thank you for the invitation. It's very kind of you, sir.
Oh no, the pleasure is indeed all mine. So I have to ask, what is the obsession with Star Trek?
Oh man, I've been a Trekkie since like I was. Oh God, how old? I think I first came across Star Trek in about 1993. It was literally one of those. I got home from school, and Star Trek: The Next Generation was on Sky One, and I absolutely loved it. And it would swap weekly with the TV show Quantum Leap.
Yeah, I remember Quantum Leap.
But ever since then, like I became a massive Star Trek fan. I mean, not crazy massive like like some of the convention guys you see online, but you know, I own a couple of bits and pieces of memorabilia here and there, and DVD box sets and all that. But I've
been waiting for you to do a video with like one of the uniform shirts on. One of the Next Generation uniform shirts on, or like the old original series. I've been waiting to see that, unless I've missed it somewhere down the road.
I do have an old style original series like red T-shirt.
Yeah,
I'm actually wearing it right now.
I was going to say the red shirts were always the first ones to get killed.
Yeah, so I picked up one of those from the shop Forbidden Planet a couple of years back, but I'm wearing it right now. But then Scotty never got killed.
That's true, and he was actually always my favorite. What was that? Have you ever seen the movie The Boondock Saints?
I think I have. Is that the one about the two Irish guys who were sort of religiously killing people?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it, but it was years and years and years ago.
A very young Norman Reedus at that point. I love the scene in the bar where the Russian guys come in and he just looks at him and he's like, Chekhov, well, this here's McCoy. We find a Spock, we've got us an away team. Like, as soon as he said that, I'm like, the sad part about it is I actually know what he's talking about.
It's a Star Trek reference.
Exactly. Like, because I used to watch the original series a little bit, and I grew up watching Next Generation. But I was always more. I'm just more of a William Shatner guy than anything. Like his spoken word of Rocket Man is still one of my favorite things to this day.
He's got a couple of albums which are
Yes, he does.
Definitely unique.
I think he actually did some music or something. I don't remember what it was. I think he actually did something with Henry Rollins at one point that I've still been meaning to listen to, but I just haven't gotten around to it. And you'll have to forgive me. One of my cats was craving attention, so now I feel like an evil genius. I'm sitting here talking to you and
petting your cat at the same time.
Exactly. I'm just like, well,
Like,
Mr.
Dr. Evil.
Exactly. Like, we find ourselves in an interesting position now, don't we?
The Wanderer says that he's been visiting Forbidden Planet as well and got himself a model Fallout holotape. Nice one.
So, so before we wrap up today, what are you currently working on right now that my viewers and your viewers need to know about?
At the moment, I've got a few responses to Jared Wars. He's been aiming the guns towards the STOODOGG. So it's time for the STOODOGG to fire back.
The STOODOGG is going to bite.
He's been making a few. I guess the best term would be a few unfair remarks about me that don't necessarily reflect me very well. So I want to clear that one up and let him know how I really feel. But no, recently he's been saying my name quite a lot, and you know I'd noticed, and Hatman noticed last night. You know, responding to one of his videos as well.
Wanderer says I'm a Bond villain.
But I think it's time to. I'd been collecting a few things that Jared Wars had said a few months back, and then he chilled out and was like, okay, I don't need this stuff anymore, and a folder marked for deletion, but I just hadn't got around to deleting it. And then in the last week, he started bringing me up a lot more. And fortunately, the files I had are still there. So, yeah, I can use those as well.
Now, you said you were working on a big Star Trek project.
So the idea is the Ferengi rules of acquisition based on like YouTube and streamers and stuff. So, for example, greed is eternal. And then having the lady, I think her name was Invader Vi, who was sitting there and she's like, you don't need to give me a lot of money. You just need to give me a subscription's $5. A meal costs $20. That's like, just give me all this money. So she would be like, greed is eternal. But other sort of little things that I could pick up based on YouTube rules, corporate things, the way that people act online to sort of fit in with these these Ferengi rules of acquisition, and just make a sort of a comedy video about it.
I'm looking forward to that now. As soon as that drops, I will have to watch that for sure. And I definitely hang on let's see what is Wanderer saying here.
Mentions Invader Vi. The Simperer has entered the chat. Simps.
But I think I think really what you should do is when you do more of your spamming videos, you should just get that can and just set it right there to the side, just to see if anybody picks up. I'm sure if they listen to this, they'll get it now. But Definitely, guys. Everyone who is still watching the stream right now, go and subscribe to STOODOGG's channel. He does a lot of good work, puts out a lot of good information, and so go and show him some love and give him a sub, and give his videos some likes. And then I'm sure if you have any questions, if you send them in his comments, he'll be glad to answer them for you. But STOODOGG, it has been an absolute
in a similar sort of line. I'll also say that anyone from my follower base who has joined the stream, subscribe to Widow's Son.
And I do appreciate that. I've actually Wanderer.
I think if you enjoy my content, you'll also enjoy his content as well.
It's coming along slowly but surely. Next week I have my good friend Aaron Maloney, who was the drummer for a band called This or the Apocalypse. He also runs his own band called It's All Good. He's going to be in with me next week unless something changes. So he's going to be on for a while, and we're going to be talking some music and everything like that.
Cool.
So I hope everyone will tune in for that. But STOODOGG, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
I will definitely be having you back later on. But guys, thank you so much for tuning into episode 2 of the Sanctum Sanctorum. Once again, hit that subscribe button, the notification bell, give the stream a thumbs up, and I will see all of you people next Saturday, 2:00, unless something changes. And until then, peace be with you.
Catch us later.